Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
Team the legendary Ridley Scott coming off Gladiator, Hannibal, and Blackhawk Down with the one and only Nicolas Cage, and you're sure to have a smash hit on your hands, right? Not so much. Which is a shame, because this largely forgotten, critically acclaimed 2003 film features a phenomenal performance from Nicolas Cage that'll make you laugh so hard that you'll piss blood! So enjoy the insanity of Nic's one and only collaboration with Ridley Scott as we break down Matchstick Men.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat a-hole? Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? Have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and being until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
When an obsessive-compulsive con artist with Tourette syndrome named Roy Waller and his partner get tired of pulling small-time cons, they decide to go for a big score. But things get quickly complicated when Roy's long-lost daughter arrives on the scene, and we're left to wonder who's really getting conned.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
Matchstick Men features the one and only on-screen collaboration between Nicolas Cage and the always spellbinding Sam Rockwell. A breakout performance from 23-year-old teenager Alison Lohman, legendary character actor Bruce McGill, Bruce Altman, and the only man I want cleaning my apartment, Academy Award winner and flimflam man, Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
Patrick, hit us with some stats, won't you?
I had to put one joke about her being a young adult teenager in there.
Yeah. I felt I should probably keep this to myself, but I felt really weird when I was like, this chick's kind of sexy.
See, thankfully, I knew who she was because Shiloh's introduced me to a couple of films that she's been in, so I knew she was in her 20s when she did this. And I was like, thank God. Especially at the end when she's all whored out.
Yeah.
You're a whore.
Yeah.
She's 14.
She's 14.
I should say I wasn't left wondering who's really getting conned. I figured out this was a con job almost immediately.
Yes,
and
same.
Felt kind of bad because I was like, I don't know if the movie is supposed to be figured out like that because it just kind of changes the whole movie if you just try to figure what's going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a better Deadfall.
They actually...
That's exactly what I was thinking too.
They actually originally telegraphed it way more, and I was like, that would have been really bad because there were like little looks between her and Sam Rockwell and stuff like throughout. And
I figured that as soon as Sam Rockwell went to his house, complained that he has a lot of money, but Sam still has to pay car payments, and then called his friend, the psychiatrist. I was like, oh, he's conning him now to get his money.
Yeah. The moment he gave him the number for the psychiatrist, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna fucking con him.
yeah. So you see the psychiatrist like playing chess with the like bowler hat and a pipe and stuff. Like, yeah. And he just has pills in the back room of his office. Okay, sure.
Which
that
actually,
sort of
that's believable because
they get samples from drug companies.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're still allowed to now, but back in like that time of the 2000s, dude, they were getting paid by pharmaceutical companies to hand out samples to then write prescriptions to patients. That's why like they started coming down on all the prescriptions. So
I also thought it could have been a legit psychiatric practice to give them placebo, but maybe not. Maybe it's unethical to do that. But I don't
think it's ethical.
if you like,
I mean, to check and see, Yeah, we'll get into it. Matchstick Men was released on September 2nd, 2003, had a budget of $62 million and only made $65.6, which is not great for a Ridley Scott film. He had just come off of Gladiator, Hannibal, Blackhawk Down.
I wonder if he blamed millennials back then for his movie failing, like he did with The Last Duel.
Ridley Scott is really hit or miss these days. Like some of his movies are absolute garbage. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
some of them are just so not good, you know. And like his return to the Alien franchise, I gotta say, has been just absolutely atrocious. It's just been terrible.
Prometheus.
This was, of course, directed, like we said, Ridley Scott, who has been nominated for 3 Best Director Academy Awards, including Thelma and Louise, Gladiator, and Black Hawk Down, and of course, famously directed Alien and Blade Runner. He kind of had that early start of sci-fi, but he's since kind of, I don't know, he's all over the map as far as what kind of movies he does. Which shows a lot of range. I think he's actually a really great director. It's just, you know, sometimes his movies are just, I feel like he suffers from that kind of Christopher Nolan, I have to make everything more complicated than it needs to be type of thing.
Yes.
This was written, it's based on a book by Eric Garcia, but the screenplay was done by Ted and Nicholas Griffin. Ted Griffin did Ravenous. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. That's a great early 2000s. From Robert Carlyle, he plays a cannibal. And it's all about how like Native Americans said that they could gain like the power of the person that they ingested, and so he just keeps trying to get more powerful and stronger. And it's kind of loosely based on the same character that they based Cannibal the Musical on, the Matt Stone, Trey Parker college film that they made. But yeah, it's a great movie. And it's got why am I spacing on names today? The guy who played the bad guy in Iron Man 3.
Guy
Pearce?
No, yeah, Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce, yeah. Guy Pearce is kind of like the guy who he's I don't know why I'm talking so much about Ravenous, but he survived by like drinking the blood of the soldiers that were stacked on top of him. So he got stronger.
I think I've seen some of this movie. I don't think I've seen it all, but that scene pops in my head. I think I came in and saw a little bit, and I remember seeing something along that line.
It's a great film. It's really messed up, but it's great. He also wrote Ocean's 11. And then he worked on The Shield. They only gave him credit for 1 episode, but I think he like was in the writer's room for a bunch of The Shield, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. One of those like pre-Breaking Bad shows that almost did it perfect, but they tried to milk it right in the middle and added like 2 unnecessary seasons. But like it was a perfect show for about 3 or 4 seasons, and then the last season it all kind of wraps together. But such a good show. And then Okay.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it's kind of funny. Kind of that show kind of set the tone for TV shows moving forward, especially for FX, because you saw FX really start kind of going into that, like true crime or like that dramatic, unfiltered TV genre, and like Sons of Anarchy and all that. Yeah. And then you're right, like Breaking Bad and a bunch of shows that followed after it.
I think you can draw a line directly from The Shield to Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead and all sorts of different shows that have come up, you know, more gritty.
Anti-hero.
Yeah.
Kind of really set the stage for anti-hero television.
Then he got into producing. He co-produced The Wolf of Wall Street, and then was an executive producer on Up in the Air, which had 5 Oscar nominations. So he's been around, done some pretty good work. It was shot by John Mathiasson, who won a BAFTA for Gladiator, and then he worked on the Joel Schumacher Phantom of the Opera movie, which I have never seen, but it's mostly because I absolutely hate Joel Schumacher films. But it was nominated for an Academy Award, which is kind of crazy. Also shot X-Men First Class, Logan, which Logan is a gorgeous film.
I was just watching that yesterday too.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu, which was shot really well.
Yeah, it was.
And then random. He is currently filming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Really?
Shooting it, yeah. So he's got some heat behind him for sure. And then he also shot back in the day the the music video for Heart Shaped Box, which is one of the most memorable music videos I've ever seen.
Yeah, how random.
Just can't get away from those cinematographers who did music videos in these movies.
You know, that seems to be a trend.
Like that's what. Yeah, I was gonna say I kind of feel like that's a trend. Like that's how a lot of these guys get started in the industry, directing or shooting music videos.
Yeah, probably that or ads.
Yeah. Ads, documentaries.
Yeah,
I've seen a weird correlation, especially in the Michael Bay style universe, of people who shot like Playboy or you know, those types of like those Playboy After Dark specials and
like
stuff.
More produced porn, like
yes,
not just
like softcore,
just internet porn.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who made that bridge, including Michael Bay. That's where he started. He shot Playboy first.
You know, I was watching this porno the other night, and there's a lot of explosions, and I thought it's like Michael Bay.
There are a lot of explosions and lots of porn.
That there are. Yeah.
I think that is a PG.
Edited by the great Dodie Dorn, who had an Oscar nomination for Memento. She's worked with Christopher Nolan quite a few times, and she also edited Kingdom of Heaven, which was also Ridley Scott. Year of the Dog, End of Watch, Fury, that Brad Pitt tank movie, and then the new Zack Snyder. It is Zack Snyder, right?
Justice League. Well, it depends. There's two versions of Justice League.
Snyder cut?
There's the Joss Whedon one and the Zack Snyder one.
The Zack Snyder version. Or maybe it was the Joss. I don't know. She did the original, I think.
Oh, then that would be the Joss Whedon one, I think. Zack Snyder edited the Snyder version.
Okay, so Dodie Dorn did the Joss Whedon version. I
want to give her a lot of prop for taking what seemed to be a mess and salvaging it and putting it together as best as she could.
God, that must have been a thankless, impossible task.
Yeah.
Yeah, that poor woman. She deserves an Oscar.
Trying to make sense of like a Where's Waldo type of puzzle and like putting it together.
Movie from two wildly different directors.
And then she's like, wait, so you want me to add in this storyline about this family that has nothing to do with what's going on? And Josh Whedon's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, well, fuck me then.
Don't understand, Dodie. Flash has to fall into Wonder Woman's boobs. He has to. It's vital.
He has to.
I
She's a
need
little
this.
sexist.
I mean, the film needs this.
Wonder Woman's boobs, damn it.
And then, of course, the music was done by the legendary Hans Zimmer, which we've talked a ton about Hans Zimmer. But I just wanted to call it out because it literally just happened the other day. Aside from Will Smith smacking Chris Rock on stage, Hans Zimmer also won his second Oscar for Dune. Well deserved. That was a great score.
I just listen to that soundtrack.
Yeah.
I love when guys like Zimmer win awards. Or score movies like this because you just associate them with like these big blockbuster films, and then they score this like kind of drama comedy.
Well, this one really reminds me of the Weatherman score, which he also did. Very similar in a lot of ways, and tonally, I feel like this movie's pretty similar in a lot of ways.
I was thinking that too as I watched it.
Rotten Tomatoes gave this an 82%, 7.1 out of 10 on 186 reviews. That's a lot of reviews. We usually don't have that many.
Is.
Audience was 74%. Metacritic was 61. Which Metacritic's sometimes all over the map on these scores. Kind of confusing sometimes. IMDb gave it 7.3 out of 10, which, as we've said, that's actual people, just going to IMDb and rating it. So I feel like that's the most accurate across the board rating. And then the cinema score is a B, which I'm guessing is because of the twist ending, or maybe how telegraphed the twist ending was.
That's my main problem with it. So maybe that could be why it's such a low score for that.
Yeah, or they just feel, I remember I watched like the behind the scenes, and Ridley Scott was worried about duping people with the ending, and I'm like, you really made it pretty obvious the whole way through.
That's how you make an impression, is by duping people. Like Shyamalan made a whole career off of it.
Yeah. I'm like, you're not supposed to root for this terrible person. So he kind of gets what he deserves at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but kind of going back to the anti-hero talk.
Yeah.
It's one of those things again where you are kind of rooting for him.
You're rooting for him because he seems like he's making changes, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he's done this to people for years and years, his entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to it, but that's kind of what I liked about the ending.
Yeah.
That was one of the saving graces for me, is just his attitude towards the whole situation at the end.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
Coppola quick facts. Alison Lohman went to the audition dressed and acted like a 14-year-old girl, and Ridley Scott only realized her real age when she told him. And she was 23 at the time that they were filming. She passes us both.
Yeah. She's a good actress, and she played young. It's kind of sad that she stepped away from acting.
Yeah, she retired in like 2009, I think that was right.
Yeah, it was right after she did Drag Me to Hell, I think, was one of the last projects she did. She might have done something after that, but yeah, she was kind of on the upward, and then I guess settled down and had a family and stepped away. So, but man, is that
the story? Is she stepped away from her family?
Director, a film director, producer, I can't remember which, and then they had like 3 kids, and so she just didn't want to do acting anymore. I also imagine Hollywood might be slightly different for younger women than younger actors, and I can see why some of them might want to step away.
Oh yeah,
especially if you can pass as a 14-year-old.
Yeah,
oh god,
I don't blame her for stepping away. It's just it sucks because I thought she was really good.
Yeah, she was really good.
After Drag Me to Hell, I was excited to see what she would do next.
Yeah. And she's great in this film. I feel like she kind of steals the show in this movie.
Yeah, she really does. Yeah.
This whole thing wouldn't work if she wasn't believable.
Yeah, for sure. At one point in its development stages, before Ridley Scott was hired, Steven Spielberg was actually asked to direct, but he turned it down to do Catch Me If You Can, which is actually one of my favorite Steven Spielberg films. I love that movie.
Another con movie.
But I could definitely see Steven Spielberg doing this film. I think he might have done a better job than even Ridley Scott. But, you know,
he wouldn't have
gotten Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Has Cage ever worked with Spielberg?
No.
No.
Sadly, no.
Pairing that you'd get.
I would love that, though. I would love to see Cage in a Spielberg film.
Yeah.
I feel like Spielberg is getting to the point where he's probably going to be retiring soon, so I don't think we're ever going to see Nic Cage and Steven Spielberg together.
I don't know. I thought he was done directing a couple of years ago, and then he's just kind of come back because he seemed to be producing more than directing, and now he's come back in a big bad way. I mean, geez, look at West Side Story. Just lit up the Oscars with nominations.
I thought he was done after Munich. That was like early 2000s.
I thought he had. You know, he was on a downward spiral after Munich because, oh boy. But
the airport scenes that are set at LAX were actually filmed in the main entrance of the Anaheim Convention Center, a mile south of Disneyland.
Oh, cool. I'm going to be there in a couple months.
Really?
Yeah, for Star Wars Celebration.
Due to changed security measures in the nation's airport after 9/11, though, because this was filmed in 2003, filming rights have been severely restricted on airport property. So most of the time when you do see an airport these days, it's fake, you know, or it's in a different location.
I also imagine
made
it's
to look
kind of hard to like just shut down an airport just to film something.
Shut down an entire terminal. I feel like that movie, the Terminal, the Steven Spielberg film, I think was actually shot in an airport, but it was like a section that was being renovated or something like that. This is Ridley Scott's first film for Warner Brothers since Blade Runner, which is kind of crazy.
Wow. So you made this movie for us that bombed.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you one more chance.
We'll give you 8 different director's cuts of it, though.
This one better not bomb.
But I guess Blade Runner came back and became a cult classic, and I'm sure they've made a ton of money
probably
since.
Broke even on home video.
Blade Runner really came into its own.
Re-releases.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think it came into its own when rentals became a thing, and then like home box office, like HBO and Cinemax and all those types of movie channels really kind of made it into a cult classic, and then it just grew and grew and grew. I feel like the same thing happened to Blade Runner 2049, where it's like it bombed and then it's becoming a huge hit, you know, huge cult classic. especially for weirdo cinephiles like myself. Mm-hmm. That movie's such a fucking masterpiece.
I love it.
This is the second Nicolas Cage movie to be composed by Hans Zimmer, the second of 3, as we said, The Weatherman, but also The Rock. I did not know that The Rock was done by Hans Zimmer, so that'll be interesting.
Weird score.
Yeah. So The Rock, Matchstick Men, and The Weatherman.
The Rock does not sound like Hans Zimmer to me at all. And just I've seen a lot of that movie lately because it's been on AMC. And anytime there's a Nicolas Cage movie playing on TV, I put it on in the lobby. So I've heard that score a lot lately. Oh, hell yeah, dude. So I've heard that score a lot lately, and it does not sound like Hans Zimmer to me.
I remember it being, like we've said, the cookie cutter Michael Bay score.
Yes, it is.
But
I think Hans Zimmer's got the talent where he can just do that. Like if
he could do whatever.
If the director wants him to do a specific style, he'll probably just do it.
I feel like at the time he wasn't
music. Okay,
he wasn't quite Hans Zimmer yet. That was 1996.
No. Yeah.
So I feel like he kind of did whatever the director wanted at that point, which I think he still does, but I think he brings his own thing to it now.
I think the first time I ever heard of him was for the Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah.
I was going to say Pirates
breakout.
Yeah,
I
think
remember
so.
hearing his name in Pirates, and then Batman is where I really got interested in him because the score he did for that first movie was incredible.
Yeah,
and then it just carried on.
Just kept getting bigger and bigger with his Nolan collaborations.
Yeah, to the point where his music just starts drowning out the audio in Nolan's films.
There were some spots in Dune where it's just like here's a shot of like a hot air balloon going across the desert, and it's like
yeah.
He's probably watching the scene. He's like, I have to make this interesting. It's so boring.
Although the major con at the end of the film, spoilers, is in the novel. It was actually left out of the first drafts of the screenplay for fear that the audience would feel cheated, like we said, if the hero was left penniless. He's not a hero, though.
Yeah.
At the suggestion of director Ridley Scott, however, the con was put back into the screenplay, and the last 1 year later sequence was added as a wrap-up, which, if they would have ended it without that sequence at the end, I feel like you would have felt pretty bad for him. But yeah,
would have been a Schrader movie, just ending on a downer.
If it would have ended with him cackling on Heather's doorstep at the end. As revealed in the DVD director's commentary, Roy, Frank, Angela, and Frechette. Who's Frechette? Is that Chuck?
That's Chuck.
Okay. Chuck. Roy, Frank, Angela, and Chuck all smoke at some point in the film. This is a clue added by the filmmakers to indicate that the people who smoke in the film are con men.
Because they use matches to light
the thing. There's also that shot of when he comes out of the fake hospital room and they've been playing backgammon or when it's like that little game with the sticks. They're all matchsticks in there instead of like regular pins, which is interesting.
I don't know, that's what they were called.
Is it backgammon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the game, yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know that's what they called those stupid things. I fucking hate that game.
Like many of the films we've covered on this show, Matchstick Men was based on a book. And now that I own every single Nicolas Cage movie, well, aside from Never on Tuesday, still looking for that one, I've started building a library of books that eventually became Nicolas Cage movies, thanks to our friends at Book Outlet. Book Outlet sells brand new books at ridiculously low prices of up to 90% off the list price. If you like to read, there's no better place to buy your books than on bookoutlet.com. And if you like to read books that eventually became Nic Cage movies and you don't want your significant other to throw you out on the street for spending loads of money on Nic Cage stuff, then there's no better place to score incredible deals. Not that I'm speaking from experience. Head over to bookoutlet.com by clicking the link above or in the description below. Not only will you score incredible prices on brand new books, you'll be helping to support our channel as well.
It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
Our film begins with Roy surveying his backyard in a Los Angeles suburb while repeating, and blinking like mad as he opens and closes every door at his house 3 times each. You know, because he has OCD. Just in
or
case
doesn't.
You didn't get it.
Or does.
We cut to the great Sam Rockwell, who plays Roy's partner, Frank Mercer, who is busy swindling some poor hapless boomer on the phone. The con goes down as follows. So it's a lot easier than to follow the cons in this than it is in, like, Deadfall.
They also call it a pigeon drop, though.
Mm-hmm. Did they? I wonder if that was a nod to Deadfall, or just that's what it's called.
I think that was the lotto ticket thing. They called it the pigeon drop too. Same as when they lose the gold bracelet or the diamond bracelet in Deadfall.
The con goes down as follows. Frank convinces someone they have been randomly selected to win a prize, but they have to buy a water filtration system for $350 to be eligible. He sends a courier to their house to collect a check. Then Frank and Roy show up posing as Federal Trade Commission officers and convince the poor bastards they've been conned, but that they can track down the culprits if they are granted access to their bank accounts, which allows them to rob their victims blind.
You know, like he says at one point that I never conned anybody who didn't have it coming, you know, out of like greed or stupidity. And like, I feel like you have to be pretty stupid to fall for this $350 filtration system
out
thing.
Old people and stuff. It's just a scammer thing, you know.
I sent $1,000 to a Nigerian prince to help him get his money squared away.
That's the thing about these scams, though, is they specifically find the stupidest people on purpose because they're the ones that are going to, you know, give them money. So
I think, you know, it works on you just keep calling people until some idiot.
And it actually works in your favor. The more ridiculous your scam sounds up front, the better it actually works, because that you really only find the stupidest people who are going to fall for it. So I feel like this is a little bit higher level. Like it's a little bit smarter of a scam than what they probably had to do, but it makes for a good movie, I guess.
Yep.
Everything goes off without a hitch until Roy has a fun little Tourette's episode where he calls the con artist they're supposedly trying to catch whack jobs. And then when the sliding glass door is opened, he sees a flurry of pollen swirling into the room and starts twitching like mad and saying, over and over again while winking a bunch.
That's kind of his main tick throughout, is that.
Yeah, the eye tick, which most people who have Tourette's, that's most of what it is. It's usually it's a nonverbal, like a facial tick or something.
Yeah,
so I thought that played pretty well.
Nic Cage did amazing with this.
Yes, he killed it.
His OCD.
Pygmies. It's his Bob Saget.
Yeah.
They head back to their office where they count their latest score, and Frank tells Roy about a guy named Chuck who's loaded, but Roy doesn't want to get involved since it'll be a long con. He doesn't do long cons anymore. Roy heads to a supermarket where he buys the only 2 basic food groups, cigarettes and cans of tuna fish, from a cashier who immediately makes eyes at him. Can you even, like, where can you go that you can just, like, do they used to have tobacco, like cigarettes just out on the store shelves that you could pick up? Yeah, just like... I guess I started working at a grocery store a year or 2 after this, and they already had them all locked behind the customer service.
It happened about this time when they started locking them up, but there used to be, like, you could just walk up to a wall and just pick out the cigarettes that you wanted and then just take them right up to the front. And they stopped doing that because kids were stealing them.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Grocery stores have the best security. I was shocked. Next, Roy goes home and stashes his latest score in a ceramic bulldog with a removable head that he keeps in the front room. The bulldog is loaded with cash and a revolver. He eats a single can of tuna and then cleans it and pops it into a clean Ziploc baggie, then throws it in the trash. He might have OCD, but he sure is wasteful. Recycle that can. You could recycle the Ziploc bag.
It's funny because I feel like, you know, all of his little ticks are things that he thinks like are OCD and Tourette's and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
which makes sense.
As we find out later, it's kind of, you know, it's just his conscience that is causing him to punish himself, basically.
Next morning, we see him pull some leaves out of his pool and then chuck them into the garbage disposal, which is perfectly normal. Then he accidentally knocks his pills into the sink, which sends them straight down the disposal with the leaves. Roy freaks out by saying, "Oh, pick me." As you do. Quick fact.
Pick-me's.
Oh, pick-me's. Quick fact, Roy's pills are actually Benadryl, the popular over-the-counter allergy medicine. Really?
Yeah, and I wondered if he always had fake pills.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if, like, from the beginning, he always had that. Because those are, like, when he mentions it to the doctor, he's like, they have this written on them, which is what's written on all Benadryl pills. So
Really?
I kind of wonder if he was being scammed by the previous doctor as well.
Yeah,
who just skipped
probably,
town
yeah.
and gave him shit illegally.
It sounds like he was going to
Conning
a
and
legal
conned.
doctor, so it makes sense that they're
Yeah.
Yeah. Scamming him,
or
too.
it was a legit doctor and they didn't want to lose their license over, giving this guy drugs under the counter, so they just gave him over the counter allergy meds.
Or it could be the first sign that he falls for scams too, and then he's capable of being conned because he's already been conned by one doctor.
But seriously, like Benadryl, can you imagine popping a Benadryl every single day? Like that shit
Every morning,
knocks my ass
suddenly
out.
I'm
Like,
tired. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess
Tell you
maybe
what.
you'd build up a tolerance to it and it wouldn't
Yeah.
do anything anymore if you took it every day.
He never has allergies, though.
Well, Dr. Klein says at one point, like, I'm surprised you weren't on the floor after taking these.
Oh.
So
Yeah, at
maybe-
the dosage you're taking, I'm surprised you weren't on the... Yeah, so he probably knew what it was, too. That's funny. I like that. That's a nice little nod to what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're right, with the pollen and shit, like... he suffers. It's an allergy thing. Like,
Yeah.
he calls his doctor only to find out the doctor moved away, which sends Roy into a tailspin. He blinks like crazy, sniffs a bunch, and goes on a cleaning frenzy that would make even the janitor from Willy's Wonderland envious. He scrubs every square inch of his house while Frank calls him repeatedly. Different joke messages and stuff. It's funny. Frank, what did you say? I think my pancreas is failing. I can't feel my thumbs. They're all speaking
This was
Spanish
one
on
of
TV. I can't understand any of it. What's going on?
It was one of the first, like, roles that really made me fall in love with Sam Rockwell. Like, guys, he's just so good in everything.
I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but he always kind of plays like within the same kind of range of just like I haven't seen anything where he's not kind of a charismatic, slightly sleazy guy. Or more sleazy than charismatic, like in Green Mile. That was the first thing I saw him in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Green
yeah,
Mile.
Green Mile, huh?
Green Mile and the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Longest
Was
name ever.
Was he in the... God, what's that movie? Moon... Oh, fuck.
Moon.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah, he
it
was
just
in
Moon?
Moon.
Okay.
Where he plays like multiple versions of himself or I don't know. That movie's
It's a bizarre
confusing.
movie.
It's an amazing movie though.
Yeah.
I
very
think that was like the first like breakout of like this dude can really act because he's playing like 7 different versions of himself or
Yeah.
maybe it's like 3, but
Yeah.
but he's the only person in the movie, which is crazy.
Cheap movie.
Yeah. I think the whole thing was shot on a set, so
Frank shows up at Roy's house the next day eating a sandwich and looking frumpy as all hell. They have a real odd couple dynamic throughout this film. Roy tells him to take off his shoes before coming in, but Frank walks right in and onto Roy's freshly cleaned carpet, which causes Roy to say,
You looking for something, sucker?
weird.
I love
Like
that.
that was a Nic Cage ad lib.
Looking for something, sucker? Yeah, my partner, handsome guy, tall.
Frank tells Roy that he needs him to come back to work because he, Frank, doesn't have a bunch of money like Roy and he still has car payments to make. Roy notices Frank's shoes and half his sandwich on the carpet, which makes him want to hurl. Frank calms him down by having him breathe into a paper bag and calls a psychiatrist for Roy named Dr. Klein after he wipes his ass and crotch with Roy's phone.
I really feel like that odd couple thing was purposeful. Like that was probably it could have been the impetus for the characters, like writing the characters. Like, just make it basically the odd couple, but con men.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. It kind of makes it a little bit unbelievable that they would have this history then to me. Like they both seem so at odds with each other, but they're both really good at what they do. So maybe that's what keeps them working together.
Or he just, he found a kindred spirit and they kind of latched onto each other. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Frank learned everything that he knows from Roy.
Yeah.
Kind of like Angela, she starts to learn from him the same way.
Yeah, we can kind of see that he likes to coach, he likes to find somebody like himself to coach. Mm-hmm. So puts up with maybe the eccentricities of it.
Yeah.
At the psychiatrist, Roy tells Dr. Klein that he was getting his medication illegally and that he doesn't know what he was taking. Roy is super combative to the doctor and only cares about getting the pills, but Dr. Klein convinces him to sit down and talk with him. Roy tells him he has pretty much every mental disorder you can think of. He hates being outside, he doesn't like dirt, he gets sick to his stomach from random things, he has tons of tics, Tourette's, OCD, and he has pretty much no contact with anyone aside from Frank. I think that's where the psychiatrist is like, oh, he doesn't actually have any problems. Yeah. Like, he's just listing shit off. I think they key to that when he says, I think I have what they call agoraphobia.
Yeah.
What it's called agoraphobia. And he's like, incorrectly, but go on. Like, that's not a real thing. It's other, disorders that.
Makes me wonder if Dr. Klein was legitimately a psychiatrist.
I think he was.
Yeah.
Like that's why he says like that's why they play that soundbite later on when he says I'm a psychiatrist, I can't lie. Like I think it was to show that he really was a psychiatrist. He never actually lied to him. He just didn't tell the whole truth.
Yeah.
And then he just picked up and left because they call the medical office and he's an established psychiatrist at this office. It's not like he's just working out of a back room or something. So, but I think that was a key. Like no person who'd actually been to a psychiatrist would call their disorder agoraphobia. So that's why he's like, okay, this guy's making shit up. So, and I wonder now, I'm thinking about it, this is getting ahead of ourselves. I wonder if Frank suspected he didn't actually have any disorders either, and that's why he brought him into this, to have Klein help him con him. So.
I'm sure he saw that like certain random things would trigger it and probably picked up on what was triggering it, which usually seems to go along with them doing something bad.
Right. Or there's times where he wasn't triggered at all when he should have been, which is probably what we noticed it watching the movie. So I'm sure Frank noticed it after working with him for so many years.
Yeah.
Roy tells Klein that he hasn't been in a romantic relationship in at least 10 years since he and his wife had their split up, since he was a drunk and she left him with a black eye that he gave her. So she had the black eye.
She had the black eye?
Yeah. Okay. The way he says it sounds weird, but he's like, she left with a black eye that I gave her and a bun in the oven that I may or may not have given her or whatever. So there's another tip off that he's not that great of a guy.
He's not that good of a dude.
Yeah. But again, and he lets loose that he just might have a child since Heather was pregnant when they split up.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's basically, he says, so it's like he hit her, he was abusive to her and she left him. But the way he worded it made it sound like, oh, she left me with a black eye. She gave me a black eye, but no, she
That's
left
what I thought,
eye.
but
Yeah, because he says she left me with a black eye that I gave her. So, yeah. It's real quick, but it's subtle.
Yeah. Him sort of forgiving his own actions, I guess.
Right.
Through wordplay.
Yeah, I wonder if it's supposed to be like we see him as not that bad of a guy through his actions, but he knows that he's still a pretty bad guy because there's stuff we don't know about him. And obviously he would know it and his conscience knows it. So
yeah. And like he doesn't drink at any point. Like he even has alcohol in front of him a bunch of times, like with the martinis and the margarita in the Mexican restaurant. It's because he knows like if he drinks, he's going to go off the rails and turn back into that person that he himself hates and doesn't want to be anymore.
And then he says, look, Doc, I spent last Tuesday washing fibers on my carpet. And the whole time I was washing the carpet, I was wondering that I was worrying that I'd vomit. And the whole time I was thinking, I'm a grown man. I should know what goes on inside my head. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that I should just blow my brains out and end it all. But then I thought, well, the more I thought about blowing my brains out, I start worrying about what's going to happen to my goddamn carpet. Okay, so that was a good day, Doc. And I just want you to give me some pills and let me get on with my life. I don't know how to deliver that in the Cage.
Yeah.
Trying to remember how he does it. But.
It's all those little stops where he's...
That's right. Doctor gives him some pills that he had lying around in the office, which doctors do all the time, right? First clue that many things aren't quite what they seem. Roy starts to feel better, but he can't get back to work scamming poor housewives, so he heads home and tries to call his ex-wife, but chickens out when she answers the phone.
I feel like everything would have been solved if he just would have talked to her from the beginning.
It's one of my questions, my Coppola questions. It's my big one. Back at the psychiatrist's office, he tells Dr. Klein that his ex-wife was pregnant for 2 months before she even told him about it, and that the baby would be 14 now if she ended up having it. He asks the doctor to call Heather for him to find out if Roy actually does have a love child out there somewhere, and the doctor reluctantly agrees. He calls Roy later and tells him that his ex-wife doesn't want to talk to him, but Angela, his daughter, does. He nervously heads to meet her by a school where he sits in his car smoking and staring at children in the park. Just what every parent wants to see. He's even wearing like the old man windbreaker the whole time, too. That beige windbreaker that's just nondescript. And probably sets off some red flags.
Yeah.
He waves at some teenage girls who laugh at him, which causes him to make goofy noises and fight some imaginary flies around his head. And he smokes about 10,000 cigarettes. And just as he's about to give up and head home, he spots his daughter riding up on a skateboard. He anxiously jumps out of his car after thinking twice about greeting her and introduces himself to his next wife. I mean, his long-lost daughter.
Jesus.
That's my one joke about her age.
Oh, fuck.
He likes the youth. It's like in Moonstruck, you know? He doesn't want to be seen. Yeah.
Angela asks him how long he's been out of prison, since that's what her mom told her. But Roy says he's never been in prison since he's in Antiques. He asked if she'd be okay with going somewhere to eat, since he gets uncomfortable being outside, and she thinks his quirks and nervous fidgets are funny. So they go to a restaurant where she eats a big messy hamburger while Roy stares at her like she's an alien, and she says her mom told her that she only got Roy's elbows rather than his eyes or his nose.
How would you even tell?
That's why I think that's the point of that. Like everybody's elbows look the same. So if you're trying to, convince someone you're their daughter, you'd say, "Oh, I got your elbows," because you can't dispute it.
I'm just guessing at some point she just floated around and knocked her mom in the eye. She's like, "Oh, you got your dad's elbows."
I really thought she was related to Frank because she kind of looks like Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
So I thought like it was his little sister or something.
Yeah. Though she kind of gets scammed out of her cousin.
Yeah, I don't think they're related,
Frank
but I thought
well.
That was going to be part of the reveal, was that they were sort of his cousin or something.
Mm-hmm.
His wife.
He tells her school is important since he dropped out, and she asks if that's how he became a criminal, which makes Roy twitch out again and tell her, I'm in Antiques, and to cut the shit. He takes her home, and she roots through his glove box for a bit. She tells him to stop a block away so her mom doesn't see him, and then asks him if they can go bowling together or something. He waits for her to head home, but she waves at him to leave. Again, little clues. Also,
she never goes up to the house.
She's only asking him information. She's not, she volunteers information about herself, but he never, I'm trying to think. They were very clever about her asking leading questions about and getting information out of him throughout the whole movie. Which he's also eager to just give because it's his daughter. He wants to connect with her.
Yeah. And every bit of information that she has when she first sees him came from the psychiatrist and what Roy told him.
At the office, Frank notices Roy smiling and giggling to himself while looking at his palm where his daughter wrote her phone number. Roy... Could make another joke there, but I won't. Roy asks Frank how much they can get from Chuck, the guy Frank mentioned earlier as a long con prospect, and Frank is overjoyed that Roy wants in on the score. He says they can get at least $30,000 out of the guy, so Roy heads to the bank, pulls some money out of a safety deposit box so they can pull a Jamaican switch on Chuck. Jamaican switch, is that like an Eiffel Tower? Because you need a dark room, two people with similar builds.
Oh my God.
He gets his best Gordon Gekko outfit together to go meet the mark at the legendary Spearmint Rhino, which today has 31 locations between the US, UK, and Australia, but is rudely interrupted when Angela shows up unannounced. She comes in and starts making a big mess in his spotless house, which rubs him all sorts of wrong. but he resigns himself to letting her sleep on the couch since he has an important antiques meeting to get to in the middle of the night. She even says that. And he's like, what did you say? Like, antiques wait for no man or some weird shit excuse. Antique deals wait for no man. Over at the strip club, Frank meets up with Roy and they pretend to have an important business deal in front of Chuck to pique his interest while Angela ransacks Roy's house and discovers his ceramic bulldog stash. At the supermarket, Roy buys Angela some ice cream and runs into the same cashier from earlier, and after a flirty exchange, he walks to his car through a parking lot littered with shopping carts, which is such a weird shot, but it had to be intentional, but I don't really know what the purpose of it is.
I think he doesn't notice the clutter all of a sudden.
Yeah, but it was just like egregiously, like cars just all over the parking lot. It was just to me like people in LA are assholes and just leave their cars.
Well, that's true too, but... But yeah, I feel like that was 100% intentional, like to show that now that he has some, purpose, he doesn't see the things that normally would set him off, cause him to have his OCD fits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd imagine he'd clean them up if it was the old Frank or old Roy. Like he'd spend time putting them all back because he couldn't stand seeing them all like that.
Mm-hmm. But he just walks right through them, doesn't even pay him any attention whatsoever.
He finds Angela asleep on his couch with his records strewn around the house. She wakes up and asks him why her mom left him and says the reason she's there is because they got into a fight after her mom called Roy names. She says her mom said Roy's a bad guy and he doesn't seem like a bad guy, to which Roy says, "That's what makes me good at it."
It's a great line. It's like the first time he lets loose that like, yeah, I am a criminal.
I also like when she's searching his house and like sees all of his tidy whities. She laughs and then like opens the door again, just messes him up just to close it. It's just like is this guy for real? Like put a little chaos in there.
Act 2. Let's get some motivation up in this thing.
The next morning, Roy wrestles with the joys of newfound fatherhood as he tries to use the bathroom only to find Angela showering. Then he cleans up the huge mess that she made the night before and finally awkwardly tries to talk his daughter out of eating ice cream for breakfast since he made her eggs and toast. He doesn't eat normal food at all. Yeah. So it was a huge gesture for him to make eggs and toast for her. But I feel like that's what a kid would do.
Yeah. Also, like, have you ever seen a Ben & Jerry's tub of ice cream that big?
Yeah.
I haven't. It was like a full
gallon.
They
made it comically huge.
Yeah, like Ben & Jerry's is always like the little pints or whatever.
I feel like they used to be bigger back in the good old days.
But yeah, now they're mainly just like the pint sizes.
Ripped off. I'd rather have a giant tub of it. It's good ice cream.
Frank pops by and lets Roy know that Chuck is into whatever fake business scheme that they've got going on, and Angela asks who Frank is to him. She also asks about the 900 cans of tuna fish Roy has, and he simply says,
"I like tuna fish."
So I guess that explains that.
I feel like if you only ate tuna, you'd get so sick.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell?
I know, like bodybuilders will go on that, just straight protein diet, and they eat just like cans of tuna nonstop with their protein supplements and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, but he's not a bodybuilder. And there is such a thing as like protein poisoning if you eat too much protein. So.
Yeah. And mercury poisoning.
Yeah. But he's eating like a can. I take it as he only eats a can at breakfast and dinner. I don't see him being a lunch guy. It just doesn't seem like enough to sustain.
No. A 6'4" guy.
Yeah. Right? Angela calls home and her mom says she wants her back in time for summer school, which starts on Monday. But that means she'll be staying with Roy for the entire weekend, which he's not super stoked about. So he gives her his patented before he relents and lets her stay. I love those throughout. He only has like 3 or 4 of them, but they're actually pretty close together. We see Roy at Dr. Klein's office where the doctor tells him to be as open and honest with Angela as possible. More foreshadowing. Yeah, just tell her everything about you. It's a clever scheme. I mean, I think I feel like if they would have telegraphed it a little less, I feel like it would have worked a little bit better. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watched it and didn't pick up on it at all the whole way through. But you could have made it more Fight Clubby or like Usual Suspects.
Be expecting that pathos of like, oh, he meets his long lost daughter, and they form a connection, and it turns his life around or whatever. And that's obviously what they were playing on. But it just felt too telegraphed. Yeah,
that's definitely. I think I think you can buy that throughout, and I do think they do a good job with it. But
it still works.
There's just a few too many clues.
Yeah, and there's nothing that's like overtly like, oh, okay, this is definitely a con. But so I guess maybe that was the intention, was to have you not be sure as the outside viewer.
Maybe you suspect that it's happening, but you're not positive.
Yeah.
Roy takes Angela to the store where his crush works and waits in a much longer line just to see her, and Angela realizes Roy has a thing for the cashier. Back home, he makes Angela spaghetti, or whatever that was. It was like spaghetti with basil leaves in it.
Spaghetti aglio olio, which is really good if you've never had it. It's just olive oil with toasted garlic in it. And you mix that in with some Parmesan in this. I don't think he added that Parmesan, but
I don't think he did either.
It's super easy, pretty healthy version of spaghetti, and super tasty.
But while she takes a beer from the fridge, prompting another I don't know from Roy. She just keeps drinking it, though. He never stops her from drinking the beer. It was funny.
That's a teenage thing. They push boundaries.
She hates his cooking, and he eats out of a tuna can like a cat, so I'm guessing he gave up on his own cooking years ago. They order pizza and enjoy some father-daughter bonding time. Yeah, it's like that shot of her with like the spaghetti, and then he's got just this one lone tuna can sitting in front of him. The next day, Roy, Frank, and Chuck meet up at a marina restaurant where Roy tells Chuck that he skims foreign money off of the top at a bank, but he can't exchange currency since the bank watches all transactions he makes, so he needs Chuck to give him U.S. currency in exchange for the foreign bills, since Chuck has no record or attachment to the bank. Is that all clear for that scam, what that is?
I don't understand. I can't remember what Chuck did. Like why Chuck had access to this
I think
much
Chuck
money.
Was just rich, and he was just giving him money in exchange for the foreign currency. And he makes a profit.
Yeah, because the pound is worth more than the dollar. So
like this with the exchange rate, Chuck pockets over $2,000 on their $5,000 transaction. So he does, it's like you got to spend money to make money. So he gives them the money the first time around, so that they can do a much bigger switch later on. Roy takes Frank home to introduce him to Angela, but he finds her missing, which causes Frank to say this whole having a daughter situation is bad news for their partnership, since it's a distraction. Which, is kind of shitty, but sure.
It's true, though. Children
it is true.
It is.
That night,
getting away your hobbies and your work, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad for my parents. They had to raise me. I ruined their lives.
You did. Absolutely did. We all did. That's the sacrifice that they make.
It's true.
That night, Roy worriedly waits up for his daughter, and when she finally shows up, he scolds her for leaving without telling him where she will be. He yells at her that he has a business and a partner and that he likes things a certain way, so he thinks it'd be better if he took her home the next morning, which prompts her to tell him she didn't do anything wrong, like get high or steal money from his ceramic dog. So she knows all about his stash already. Which he has a great little episode here. Roy has a mini panic attack when he realizes she knows about his stash and his gun. So he says,
that is wrong what you did, and you're a nosy Parker, and that's no way for a young lady to behave, and shame on you.
It's like one of my favorite Cagiest moments in the whole film.
One thing I love about her performance in this moment is that she it kind of feels fake but believable at the same time. Like it feels a little over the top, but not enough to where you're like, oh my god, she's faking it. But it's kind of like one of those clues too. If you're paying attention, it's a little forced and over dramatic.
Yeah.
But
Every time she
not
cries, it's like crocodile tears.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really love that subtle touch that she added or they added, and she was able to execute on.
Yeah, it's a shame that she didn't keep acting. Maybe she'll Rick Moranis it and come back eventually.
She's probably having a healthier life outside of Hollywood.
I'm
so
sure.
for her sake, don't come back.
Well, it's okay. Weinstein's gone. Everything's okay.
Yeah, I'm sure
Behind
he's
bars.
the only one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He was the only one.
She storms out as Roy checks to make sure all of his money is still there. And then he chases her outside to apologize. And she says he's just like one of her mom's boyfriends, something they have to deal with in order to screw her. Which makes me wonder if her mom ever uttered the words, "You want to fuck me? Everybody else has." It'd be funny if the reveal at the end was Heather was Patricia Arquette.
Oh, Jesus.
That would have been great.
Explains why he has OCD and all these mental issues.
Yeah.
I fucking killed a man once.
She screams that even her mom's boyfriends tell her what they do for a living instead of pretending to do something else while hoarding stacks of cash and a gun in their living room. Roy apologizes and says he's not great at being a dad or even being a person in general, which is very obvious. They order pizza again, and Roy tells her all about what he actually does for a living, since she asked him why he has a gun. You know, he says, like, in case. In case of what? And then he's like, all right, I'll tell you. By the way, it's worth noting that Roy shows no signs of his illness here whatsoever, and even lets Angela eat directly on his precious carpet. When she's around, he feels normal, and when he's with her, it's the only time that he seems genuinely happy throughout the film, which is really sad. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of wonder if he would have. Well, I don't know, because he was a bad guy even when he was about to have the kid in the beginning, but he's slowly kind of like gotten his life together, but he's still a con artist. So I don't know. He tells her that he is a con artist, flimflam man, matchstick man, loser, or whatever you want to call it. I'd never heard that expression before, the matchstick man.
Neither.
Me either.
Flimflam man, con artist, loser. I don't know if that... I don't know if I would call a con artist just a loser.
I think that's just him labeling himself.
just calling himself a loser. She asks who Frank is, and Roy explains that he is his partner / protege. So I definitely think that there's some of that where he really enjoyed teaching Frank, and that's why they still work together. And then it kind of gives him that same thrill to teach Angela.
Yeah. I think a part of that's like a paternal instinct, like to pass on and teach, so
pass on these excellent skills that he's learned.
Yeah. So it kind of shows that he's got that drive even before he was a dad. And obviously he talks about how he always thinks about if Heather had a kid, so.
It's funny that it took 14 years for him to really get to the point where he wanted to find out, actually try to find out.
I think he wanted to the whole time, but this is the impetus, the psychiatrist talking to him about it instead of just giving him drugs, it's probably his previous fake psychiatrist or whatever.
Yeah. Then she asks him to teach her how to do a con, and he says he's not going to screw her up like he screwed up everything else in his life. And she says, he often steals from people who don't deserve it, like old people, fat people, and lonely people. And a lot of times he feels sick about it, but I guess not enough to stop doing it. Fat people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just
I think that's another one of he's just not that good of a guy.
He's disgusted by
just
them.
Hates fat people.
He sent Mad Dog to go con that lady, and he ended up killing her instead. So
she finally convinces him to teach her a con by telling him that she's done stuff with boys. And when she gets more and more graphic, he tells her to shut up. And he'll show her if she shuts up, which I think was good. That was like him truly being a dad.
Mm-hmm. That's how I blackmailed my parents into giving me things. I've done stuff with boys.
Stuff that would make you sick. The next day, they buy a lotto ticket for the winning numbers from the previous day's drawing, and then she scratches off the date while Roy explains the rules of conning, one of which is to make sure the person you're conning isn't conning you. More foreshadowing.
Is that for Con Air?
God damn it.
He takes her to a laundromat where the sheriff from Willy's Wonderland is busy washing clothes. That's right. It's our old pal, character actress, Beth Grant. I got to wonder how many times she showed up in different Nic Cage movies.
I don't know. But when I saw her, I was like,
movie.
whoa.
I mean, she's had, they would say she's been in like 200 movies
She's
or
been
something?
in like 200 and some odd movies. Crazy.
Yeah.
Angela pops some clothes in a washer and makes friends with Dwight Schrute's babysitter. On the way to buy a soda, she drops the crumpled up lotto ticket on the floor, and the lady tells her she dropped something. Angela says it's not hers. They uncrumple it, and Haynesville's finest decides to see if it's a winner. That's Willy's Wonderland. That's Haynesville. That's right. She borrows the paper. She borrows a paper from Roy, who is sitting nearby, and finds out the ticket hit on 4 out of 5 numbers, so it turns out it's worth $600. Angela says she can keep the money, but Beth Grant says they're in this 50-50, so she withdraws $300 from an ATM to give her, since she'll have to wait for a check from the lotto people once the ticket is verified. So, pretty clever scam. Mm-hmm. I think this was the pigeon drop, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which was kind of the same scam as the one in Deadfall. Mm-hmm. But more clever. In the car, Roy excitedly tells her she did a very, very, very good job. And Angela says, "See, Mom was wrong. I didn't just get your elbows." But Roy says he wants Angela to give the money back, since he told her he'd teach her how to do a con, but not that he'd let her get away with it. Back in the psychiatrist's office, Roy tells the doctor that for the first time in years, he's excited about life and happy to have Angela around. He then explains that he took her along to help him sell an antique piece, and that in the business of selling, sometimes you have to create a value that isn't actually there, aka lie, and that Angela took right to it. It's pretty messed up. The doctor asks how he felt about it, and after some waffling, he says he really liked it, and it was the best time that they've had together so far. He just can't connect with her in any real meaningful way except for this. This is like the first time he really connects with her, because it's the thing he does, the thing he does best. At the airport, Frank dresses like your typical Florida man, cowboy hat, snakeskin shirt, and a wife beater, usual stuff. He drops a coffee cup off the second story down onto the ground floor, where Roy is standing like a kid trying to hit Santa with a soda at the mall or something.
Or a Frosty.
Yeah.
Or apple pie. McDonald's apple pie.
Chicken nuggets. Nothing like drawing as much suspicion to yourself right before a con in a place with higher security than just about anywhere else in the world.
I had to check the date at this point. I was like, was this prior to 9/11? Because I really don't feel like they're doing a lot of really suspicious shit in this airport.
Yeah. And he tells him at one point to walk him to his gate, or walk him, to the plane. Mm-hmm. That was no longer a thing.
Yeah, and he says that
at this point.
Yeah, I thought he said
he takes him to security. He's like, they won't let me go through without the ticket stub.
Yeah.
Remember the good old days when you could get off a plane and you'd have your loved ones waiting for you when you got off?
Yeah.
That used to be a thing. Yeah.
Something I forgot to mention I just realized it, and I just looked it up in the movie. Frank does a Walken impression in the movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does.
He does.
He does.
When they meet with Chuck after they leave the restaurant, I forgot. I was going to bring this up, but I didn't pay attention. He goes. It cuts to them. They're sitting at the table when he talks about, I'll give you the 5,000. When he gives them the 5,000 pounds or whatever, and then it cuts to them outside, and Frank just goes,
It's crazy. It's wild.
and then Roy's like, "See, it's uncanny," and like that's it. It's not like they don't overtly put these like in the middle of them having a conversation.
I didn't pick that up. That's awesome.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah,
It's at 47 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah,
So if you want to
they're
go back and
watching
watch it on
Chuck.
HBO or something.
Yeah, they're like watching Chuck go to the car, right? And that's when he does it.
I love their little piece of shit didn't tip. That's why it's like it's good.
That's
it's
why
good
it's
that we're
good to
conning
scam
him. Yeah. I also
Damn it,
love that he calls him.
I forgot to bring that up.
He calls him Dwight Yoakam in that scene because he's got that hat. Like, yeah, he looks just like Dwight Yoakam in that.
Yeah, sorry, I derailed it, but I forgot to bring that up, and I was like, I got to say it now before I forget again. I just was like, what the fuck? Was that a Walken impression?
It's wild. Oh my God. Frank explains that Chuck wants to meet at the airport so he can fly the money straight to the Cayman Islands since he's afraid he might get robbed carrying around, $80,000 in cash? I would feel the same way.
Wouldn't that raise some flags when you go through the airport security too?
You would think, yeah.
Like they're gonna search your briefcase. You just have a bunch of cash.
$80,000. You have to declare that in a lot of places, but I don't think you do in the Caymans, because the Caymans are that the famous tax haven for corporations and shit. They don't really care where the money
put you
came
on
from.
some kind of list in the U.S. at least. At the very least, when they're searching your luggage and they see they got all that cash.
They plan out where they'll do the bag switch, and Frank says the meet will be on Friday. That's when his flight is. Roy says he's going to hire a guy named Hobo Ernie to be the distraction. While he switches the real money he'll show to Chuck for an empty briefcase while he isn't looking. This really reminded me of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. The schemes that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of trust for a dude who just 24 hours earlier was strapped to a fucking table in the ER screaming about how he needed water.
That's Hobo Ernie.
I pictured the dad from Joe. Drunk hobo.
It's just, what are you doing there at the bar? Son of a bitch, give me my drink.
I paid for my drink.
I paid for my drink. Got money for cans of food.
Got some cans of tuna.
Got cans of tuna.
And then Beetlejuice shows up.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is the bartender. At the store, Roy chats up his crush, who asks where his daughter is and if it's lonely without her. Before leaving, I guess he picked up on the clues on this at least, and he turns around and he introduces himself and says, "It's Kathy, right?" First time making a real human connection throughout the film outside of Frank or Angela, really. Back home, Roy happily listens to a message from his daughter over and over while staring into the refrigerator for some reason at his tuna cans and Angela's actual food leftovers. It's like split on each side, hers and his. He picks her up from summer school and takes her bowling, but the fun is interrupted when Roy suddenly gets a page from Frank. Remember pagers? Those used to be a thing. He calls Frank, who lets him know that the meet with Chuck has been changed to today. So he has to go right away to the airport.
I think
This was the excuse to get Angela involved in the con.
Yeah. But I think this is another con strategy: is do things on your schedule, like change up the schedule of the person you're conning so that they're on the back foot. Which again, Roy even says when he's teaching Angela, stuff's always going to get curveballs are going to get thrown at you. So again, he's not following his own advice.
Yeah, he pretty much screws up every part of the advice that he gave her. He falls for. He tries to take Angela home, but realizes he doesn't have enough time to pick up homeless guy Ernie, get change, and all of that. So he enlists his daughter to help with the ripoff of thousands of dollars from this guy. He's already a great dad. Like I said, you shouldn't be rooting for this guy. He's a piece of shit. They head to the bank where Angela learns all about Roy's massive stash of money, how to access it, and even talks him into adding her signature as someone who can access his deposit box. Always make sure the mark isn't conning you.
Right.
She asks if she can have his passcode. Like, why would she even ask for that? And he says, yeah, when I'm dead. So she now has complete access to his entire life savings aside from that code. Important detail. He puts 80,000 pounds into a briefcase for the con. And then outside, Angela asks him how much money he has in that deposit box. And he alludes to the fact that it's somewhere north of $1 million sitting in there. So, spoilers, when he actually gets conned, he really got conned. At the airport, he meets with Chuck and Frank, where he feigns a back injury in order to sit in Frank's spot, which he has a high back on it, and that's where they have the briefcase hidden behind.
Yeah, I noticed that Frank didn't. He told Frank to make sure that Chuck was sitting with his back, or sitting with his back to the bar. And that wasn't done. Yeah, he
made it a very important point. Yeah. Like, make sure he's sitting with his back to the bar. So Roy shows Chuck the 80,000 pounds he has in the briefcase, and then Chuck reciprocates by showing the U.S. currency, and then Roy cues Angela to make a scene at the bar, which distracts Chuck long enough for Roy to switch the briefcases with a fake that he has tucked behind his seat. Chuck grabs the fake and heads for his flight, but Roy tells Frank to escort him to the plane. Roy grabs the money and leaves to meet Angela at the car, but Chuck is waiting for them in the parking garage. He slams the window with the phony briefcase, climbs on the car, and grabs Angela through the passenger side window. They finally manage to speed away, but Chuck continues to give chase and nearly catches up to them thanks to a talkative booth attendant, whatever that is, at the exit, to pay for the parking. Chased him down like a fat T-1000.
He's just...
Thankfully, they get through just in time to avoid Chuck murdering them both and make their way to a parking lot overlooking Los Angeles.
Again, it's a lot of activity in an airport parking lot. It's got to be covered in security cameras.
Yeah, I think
that nobody gets caught or arrested by security or the police when this guy's like assaulting a car and then chasing them as they speed through the parking garage.
He like rips the money out of her hands. Mm-hmm. What are you, crazy? And she still opens the gate up for them.
Right.
With what looks like an underage girl in the car.
Yeah. Who's screaming and bawling the whole time while the guy is like running obviously from the other end of the parking lot towards them.
Roy's just like, teenagers, am I right?
They meet up with Frank and Roy gets pissed since Frank didn't walk Chuck to the plane and that his daughter could have been hurt. Frank pushes back by saying he's not the one who pimped her into this grift, which is valid. Roy explains there's no way Chuck will go to the cops since he'd have to explain why he had $80,000 in a briefcase in the first place. So they're safe since none of them have a police record and are all off the books. Everyone except Angela, unfortunately. It's kind of like, now that I'm thinking about it, Frank didn't really like push Roy into any of this stuff. He just kind of like, he sort of baited him along, tried to like drop little things for him to like do. But these were all Roy's decisions and he ended up conning himself in a way.
Well, that's what makes Frank a great con artist and manipulator.
Yeah.
Get the other person to do what you want without them even knowing.
Yeah, which is also the excuse that Roy gives for all the people that he scammed. Mm-hmm. Like he never, he let them scam themselves and hand their money over to him. Yeah, they could have stopped at any point and told him no, but they never did.
You're not stealing from them; they're stealing from themselves.
Yeah. Roy gives Frank the duffel bag full of money, and he leaves while Angela explains she was arrested the year prior for fighting a security guard over a pack of gum. It's like she stole gum and
some other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. He takes her home and tells her that he doesn't want to see her anymore since she's getting in the way. He boots her out of the car while she bawls since her dad is kicking her out of her life. Or out of his life. She leaves a ceramic Chihuahua ashtray on his dash, and he screams,
What's that? Huh? What's that?
Another great cagey moment. She says she bought it for him at the airport, and he tries to apologize for the whole throwing his daughter out of his life forever stuff. She slams the door in his face and walks away sobbing.
Act 3, The Resolution.
We cut to Roy at home where he's an absolute wreck. His house is far from its usual spotlessness, and worst of all, he's run out of his medication. He starts twitching like mad and throwing out his old whoops and, Tourette's tics while searching high and low for his meds. He calls Dr. Klein's office where his secretary tells him he's gone for the weekend, and Roy flips out. He screams at her to let him into the doctor's office so he can get his medication, but his phone dies mid-sentence. He yells, "Fucking hung up on my ass!" before rooting through the trash and finding some of his empty pill packets. He then speeds over to a local pharmacy. That is the only Tourette's guy thing I threw in there, and I had to. I'm sorry, Patrick.
No, you're
Fuck
good.
the phone.
Fuck Salt.
Fuck Salt.
It makes me wonder if he had stopped taking the medication at that point, because he didn't realize that he was out of it. So, like,
Yeah.
he
and now he
had,
needed it again. Because
then he needed it again now that
Started to go
Angela's not there
crazy.
anymore. Yeah.
Yep.
I think he had, yeah. Because he would, based off of what we learned throughout the rest of the film, like he would have been dialed into his medication right now.
Making sure that he had it for emergencies such as this.
Yep. Let me tell you, the next couple minutes are absolutely incredible. He cuts in the line at the pharmacy and a guy yells, "Hey buddy, you ever heard of a line?" So Roy in turn yells,
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
"Pissed blood?"
So the headset came off.
I had to do the head shake
thing. Yeah.
I had to do the head shake thing. Otherwise it wouldn't have been genuine. It's one of my favorite line reads of any of the films we've watched.
That's why it's in the opening, is
I
because
know.
That was like the one line I always remembered from this movie. But it's so like, that's a KG. One of the best KG moments of all time,
Yes,
I think.
100% agree. Which is something I think we've all wanted to scream at a stranger in front of us at the store. I'm pretty sure that's right. I know personally, I want to scream that at least once a day at somebody.
Yeah, when you have
energy.
like one item and the person in front of you has like 1,000. You're dragged to the sidewalk and beaten to your best blood.
The line of customers are ever so slightly taken aback by Roy's. The line of customers are ever so slightly taken aback by Roy's mild overreaction, and another pharmacist calls him over to ease the tension. He asks if Roy has a prescription, and he explains that his doctor has given him samples. Once again, as doctors do. The pharmacist looks at the pill packet while Roy apologizes to the guy he just yelled at. The pharmacist then tells Roy that he's been taking supplements this whole time, and Roy says,
What?
This packet contains supplements, sir.
No. My doctor gave those to me. They're prefect.
They're supplements, sir.
Bullshit, man!
just kind of reminded me of the deadfall scene. Bullshit.
So I bet you're writing a bad lieutenant. And he's freaking out at the pharmacy in that one too.
Yeah,
That's right.
that pharmacy
Expected him to
looked
go behind the counter
really
and start
similar.
rooting through all the pills.
Excuse me, miss.
The pharmacist tells him what he's been taking, and sure enough, he finds out that he's been taking menopause supplements this whole time.
I think it's funny that that's what he chose. That feels like a Frank thing to do. Is like,
Yeah.
give him menopause pills. It'll be
I guess on the
hilarious
plus
when he finds out.
I guess on the plus side, his hot flashes did stop.
Yeah, it's true. Though he is very sweaty in this scene, you know.
Oh yeah, because he's not taking
Because
the
he
pills.
hasn't been taking it, yeah.
He takes the pills to his psychiatrist and confronts him about giving him women's hormonal pills for like a month. Dr. Klein says Roy doesn't need medication for his neurosis, so Roy calls him a fucking quack.
I have news for you, Roy. Your neurosis is small time.
Small time? What are you fucking quack?
He explains that his condition is in his head and caused by his conscience since he feels bad for being a criminal. Dr. Klein tells him he knew he wasn't in antiques since he's had his feet up on an 18th century footstool during every session, and Roy never mentioned it once. Roy justifies his criminality by explaining that he never took anybody who didn't let him out of greed or weakness. So I guess that makes it fine.
Yeah.
Also fat people.
Also fat people, you know.
They deserve it.
Well, that's a weakness and greed.
Yeah, I guess. It's gluttony.
It's gluttony. Klein asks about Angela, which causes Roy to break down. He says he screwed up and lost his little girl, and that she hates him now since he turned her away. Roy decides to reconcile with her and finds her at the park where they originally met. He tells her he went to a lawyer to try to get partial custody of her and wants to stop being a criminal so he can have her in his life permanently.
It makes me wonder, like, you know, I mean, I guess he would just be going to the lawyer to find out if it would be possible, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, wouldn't he find out that she isn't Heather's daughter at that point?
Down the line, yeah. It's just at this point, he
mentions they still have to do blood tests and all this other stuff.
Yeah, they have to
too.
go through all
He
this
probably just
other
called
stuff,
and
so.
consulted with a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just getting consultation to see what it would take to get her to be in his life permanently.
I mean, I don't feel like they had any kind of custody issue at that point, really, right? Because, like, she was coming to stay with him anytime.
He didn't want to talk to his ex-wife, but he would have to because she has custody of her. So
Yeah.
they'd have to get a lawyer involved.
Yeah, and she paints his ex in a light that is not
like she doesn't want to talk to him and
accepting
says he's a bad
of
man.
Roy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's preparing for what would most likely be illegal.
And it might also have been like he can't actually talk to her, so he knows he's going to have a lawyer contact her
True.
to talk to her.
You know, that's a good point. It does make me wonder if at the time they separated, she had a restraining order against him, and that's kind of why he's so hesitant to go until he absolutely needs to know, like, hey, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he doesn't have any kind of, like, police record.
Yeah, so they just broke it off.
True.
And never contacted her again.
Yeah, I guess that's
Sounds
true. I guess that's true. Back at home, he lets Frank know he's getting out of the business over martinis, and he gives him his share of the take from Chuck, which is like $30,000, I think.
I think that's
kind
what
of a
he
nice
said.
parting gift.
Yeah.
Which kind of, knowing the conclusion, it's like, just paints Frank into being bigger douchebag.
Yeah. He leaves him with, like, what, like $1,000 or something like that?
Yeah, I think he only leaves him $1,000, yeah. Or 4,000 maybe, I don't know.
It's like it's just a
Whatever
small
a bundle
stack
of
of
hundreds
hundreds.
is. Yeah.
Let me
It
tell
looked
you.
pretty small.
Let me tell you, a lot, thousands of dollars and hundreds, it's very small stack.
Yeah.
Not that I have anything stashed in my porcelain bulldog. At a restaurant, he and Angela celebrate their new life together and discuss the future, including getting a dog, which is the last thing somebody with actual OCD would ever want around. She even gets him to dance, which shows he's really coming out of his shell. Unfortunately, he and Angela head back to Roy's, and they find Chuck waiting for them with Frank beaten up on the carpet. Blood on the carpet must really bug him. That's just the observation I had. Like, I'm surprised he didn't just start having a complete meltdown when he saw that.
Well, I mean, I feel like at this point it's just kind of gone away.
Yep.
I think he knows that it's in his head at this point because the
Yeah.
psychiatrist told him, and
Confronted him on it, like, hey, like, this is just in your head, buddy.
and when it's like important stuff, he doesn't have the tics. Like when he's in
Yeah.
the meeting with Chuck, like he's perfectly normal the whole time. In both meetings, like he doesn't have his like blinking or anything.
Chuck holds a gun on them and says he's tracked them down through Angela's police record and the cameras in the airport gift shop where she bought his ceramic Chihuahua ashtray. This is just me personally saying it, but fuck Chihuahuas. Nothing good has ever come out of anybody owning anything Chihuahua related. Fucking rat bastard dogs. Chuck says he wants
You're really going on the warpath.
I hate him too.
Chihuahuas,
This is the
man.
hill I die on.
I hate him too.
My grandpa had one, and it was the meanest dog I've ever met in my life.
It was kind of the family dog when I was a teenager. It was Chihuahua. Well, I mean, even when I was a kid, my parents' dog was a Chihuahua. And
Is that the one that would always eat its own ass?
No, I thought that was a cat.
No, that was a.
No, that
was a poodle.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The poodle. Chuck says he wants his money back, and Roy says he only has about $4,000 in his bulldog. Okay, so I guess that's where I got the $4,000 from. I think you're right. He does leave him $1,000. When Roy goes to grab it, Chuck tells Angela to get it instead. Chuck says he wants half of whatever Roy and Frank steal from now on, and that they're going back to work, but now they work for him. But Angela rudely interrupts them by holding the gun from the bulldog. She shoots Chuck in the stomach, prompting Frank to say he's not going to make it. So Frank puts Angela in his car, and Roy tells them to meet him a day or two later at a motel called Seven Palms after he takes Chuck to the hospital. He tells Angela he's sorry he let her down and tells them to leave. Back inside, Chuck is waiting for him, and he knocks Roy out cold.
Later on, Frank says, like, sorry for the sap on the head. And it made me wonder if maybe it was actually Frank, but I think it's Chuck. I think we see Chuck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he like turns to go back in, or does he get inside or is it in the garage? Either way,
it's in the house.
You see Chuck hit him in the back of the head.
because Frank drove off with Angela.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Ashley, Abigail, I can't remember.
Cornish. Roy wakes up in a hospital room with a couple of detectives waiting to talk to him. They ask him where Frank and Angela are and tell him Chuck died in the driveway outside of Roy's house. They say they know Angela was the one who pulled the trigger since there were fingerprints on the gun. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't think about the fingerprints.
Yeah.
OCD guy wouldn't clean that gun afterwards.
Yeah, I bet he planned on it, but he kind of got knocked out before he could get that far. Roy tells them he wants to see Dr. Klein, and if he can see him, he'll tell them everything they want to know.
Sorry, going back to that, like in the garage, he like pulls out some garbage bags, and like he says that he's going to take him to the hospital. But like, was he planning on like disposing of the body potentially at that point?
No, I think he was gonna just clean. Like he was gonna throw everything away in there, and probably the gun too. Which why not send the gun with Frank? Like Frank can go chuck it somewhere.
Yeah,
just drive through Compton and chuck it in the yard.
Yeah,
what? I'm just saying.
Compton's a very lovely place. I've been there.
please don't shoot me.
Please don't shoot me.
Please don't at me. That was a reflection upon Compton just being bad. Like, you know what? I'm gonna get so much shit for this season of the podcast.
It's since been kind of gentrified. Not really, but
no.
It's still a scary place.
It is very scary. It's just like Oakland, parts of Oakland. Very scary.
Oakland's lovely. I love Oakland.
Please don't shoot me.
It's so scary.
Please don't shoot me.
It's so scary. I'm scared of my family that lives in Oakland. I'm just putting that out there. Where the fuck was I? Dr. Klein shows up sometime later, and Roy tells him the passcode to his safety box so he can give it to Angela. Time passes, and we see Roy sweating in the hospital room. He calls for someone to turn the air conditioning on and makes his way out the door where he finds that the hospital's empty. He wanders down the hall, stopping outside a door chained shut with the words "dead" inside written on it. Oh, fuck. Sorry. That's a scene out of the only good season of The Walking Dead. God, do you guys remember the first season of The Walking Dead and how good it was?
It's the only one I watched.
Oh, what things could have been.
I guess I watched that in half of the second season and then was like, I'm done.
I sadly made it like 5 seasons in because I was hoping it would get better, and then it never did, and then I gave up.
The second they left the prison, that's when things went to shit. And that was like halfway through season 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's like 38 seasons now of the show.
I think it's just wrapping up. Yeah.
And there's more spin-offs too.
And there's spin-offs now.
10
Yeah,
years
they're
of
going to spin
shows
off.
planned.
Yeah, God.
Yeah, the moment they broke Frank Darabont's brain and caused him to have that mental breakdown is when the fucking show went off the rails.
They straight up fired Frank Darabont because he wanted to double the budget from the first season. They were like, nope, we're going to make it half of the budget of the first season. And he was like,
thing on a farmhouse. No one will care.
Yeah. And then not on top, like on top of that, then they started like, if you read all the emails that got leaked objectively, they like start fucking with him and like turning him into this crazy guy who was like lashing out. And it got pretty ugly. I think he ended up winning that lawsuit, or they settled with him or something. I can't remember.
I don't know. But they ruined his show.
Got pretty ugly. They ruined his show and his career. Like what has he done since? Everybody kind of stepped away from him because when those emails initially got leaked, it looked like he was crazy because he was, it's text, so interpret it how you want, but it came off like he was losing his damn mind, but you're only seeing one side of the conversation. Anyways, I missed that fucking first season and what the potential could have been.
What it could have been.
Anyways, Roy finds out the hospital room he's been in has been a fake one this entire time, and he's actually on the roof of a parking garage somewhere in LA.
I thought it was going to be like an oil rig, and it would be like from Face Off, where he's just in the middle of the
ocean. And then it cuts to Roy stepping outside. He's on an oil rig. And you think, how's he going to get off this oil rig?
He'll just jump
in the ocean and swim.
Just jumps and swims. 72 miles to shore. In voiceover, we hear a message from Frank that says, "Dear Roy, you're probably pretty upset. I don't blame you. You taught me most of what I know, so I suppose I owe you better than this. But you always told me that if I ever got a shot at a big score, I should take it. And that's what I did. Sorry about the sap on the head, by the way, and for everything else. You always said guys like us can't afford to have regrets about what we do. That's going to be a little harder for me, but I'll manage. If it makes any difference, you're the best I ever saw. I'd never find a better partner, and now I won't have to. I love you, man. Frank. P.S. Enjoy the gift." What a sweet dude.
I mean,
the real gift is the memories that he made along the way,
Yeah.
We all know that's the real gift.
Yeah. If Deadfall taught me anything, that's what it taught me. It's like, it's the memories.
It took every ounce of willpower I had not to just spam this last bit with fucking Deadfall references.
Frank runs to a carousel for some reason. Rides it around.
There's a woman in a red dress.
It's all
There's
black
money
and white.
flying everywhere. It goes black and white.
They
for
filmed
no
in a
reason.
food court of an outdoor mall.
Some fucking guy with a claw shows up, a robotic claw.
That would have been a great twist in the middle of this movie.
He just never
Dr. Claw shows up.
the line.
I can't remember what his name was in Deadfall. That would have been awesome.
Can't remember either.
Dr. Claw is all I remember.
That's all we remember. What really ends up happening is Roy runs across the roof in panic, and for the first time in our 22 films so far, we get confirmed bare naked Nicolas Cage ass. His cheeks are popping out of that hospital gown, and let me tell you, he's got a great ass.
I think it deserves a clap.
It does.
Finally get some Cage ass.
It's the only nudity in this film.
The only nudity in the whole film. It's a PG-13 film, so butt cheeks are kind of okay in PG-13 for whatever reason. But yeah, Nic Cage ass for the first time. We sort of had it in Face Off there, but it was unconfirmed. We had this weird like pan down his stomach, and it was getting close, and then we had a reverse shot where we see, but it's like in shadow. You can't see his ass. So this is the first time we've had confirmed Nic Cage ass. I wonder how many times this happened over the 110 films that he's done or whatever.
I love how nobody asked if that was his real ass, though, or if it was a CGI ass.
I worked really hard on that ass.
I didn't last once.
Never going to work out again.
Unfortunately, he gets dressed and heads to find that Dr. Klein's office is empty. At his house, the ceramic bulldog is also empty, and of course, his safety deposit box is completely cleaned out, aside from the gift Frank left him of a few $100. Roy heads to Heather's house where she has no idea who Angela is and tells him she lost the baby shortly after they broke up. Roy then breaks down and starts laughing for falling for the ultimate con.
Yeah, he cries for a bit and then he starts cackling.
Roy, you okay?
Yeah. On her doorstep. So I haven't seen you in 14 years, and this is how we reconnect.
Yeah. What? You ask about somebody I don't know and then cry?
He's like, oh, you changed for the better.
She seems like she got her life together pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, she kind of looks like the store.
She does.
She does.
She really looks similar.
I stopped and I was like,
for her, I think.
Yeah. I was like, did they just use the same actress twice?
So did I.
They just thought like we wouldn't notice.
We find out he's actually like schizophrenic and he's been flirting with his ex-wife.
Made up in his head.
Yeah, that would have been a twist.
That would have been
a twist. That would have been an M. Night Shyamalan twist for the ages. 1 year later, we find Roy working at a furniture store. He heads to help some frumpy doofus find a carpet, and it turns out this guy's girlfriend is coincidentally Angela, or whatever the fuck her real name is, because we never find out. She's mortified when she recognizes Roy, but Roy plays it cool and keeps helping her boyfriend. Once he and Angela are alone, Roy asks if she's working the dude she came in with, and she says she's retired. He says she was great at it, and she says she got kind of screwed out of her cut by Frank, which, go figure, right? This dude's conning his partner. Why would he not con her too?
I bet he screwed over Dr. Klein and Chuck too.
And Chuck. He pops back into dad mode and asks why she's dressed like a whore, and she asks if he's going to ground her. Shit's getting real kinky here. She apologizes for ruining his life and stealing his life savings, but he says she didn't take it. He gave it to her since he sees things differently now. She and her doofy boyfriend buy a leopard print carpet.
It was the cheapest one they had.
Fucking classy. She's all dressed. Anyways.
This also kind of reminded me weirdly of Breaking Bad with Jesse and Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones, yeah.
That kind of like weird dynamic that they had too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where she gets him into heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah. This chick is getting him into awfully carpeted apartment.
It's just the real crime, really.
That's the real crime.
Which is, I would rather her get him into heroin than put that fucking carpet in that apartment.
Maybe she's just making sure he never cheats on her by putting the ugliest carpet.
Well, let me tell you,
to bring any chick home.
No self-respecting woman would walk in there and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fuck this guy."
He seems like kind of an idiot the whole time.
Oh yeah, he's just like staring at him like, "You guys know each other?"
But it's funny. He lives in like this 1-bedroom apartment, so she's kind of, I don't know. I'm sure she has some money, stored up, but at the same time, she's just kind of, living the bachelorette life in L.A. after pulling this huge con.
They're both doing that. Like they were both sort of forced into it, and they do have a genuine connection. So maybe they both realize they don't really want that life, and she got out of it a lot faster than Roy did. So it's funny, kind of a nice ending.
Yeah, Roy lives still in his house.
I'm assuming he paid that house off.
Yeah, he had paid it off long ago. So at least he has that. He wasn't left with nothing whatsoever.
Homeless,
yeah. He can bring his cashier fiance home and have a happy life there with their baby.
She then asks Roy if he wants to know her real name, to which he says, "I know your real name," or "I know your name." And she says, "I'll see you, Dad." Okay. I doubt it.
So they kind of, go back into that relationship that they had
go
before.
Bowling again. She says she meets the guy bowling. So
that's right.
She met him. So
bowling.
I feel like he wants to reconnect and like stay in touch with her, but at the same time, he kind of hates her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't ask for her phone number or anything.
Yeah, he's just...
Yeah, he just lets it go. Because when he first sees her, he just kind of give off that look like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
I'm gonna fucking kill this bitch.
He then rolls her butt. No, I'm just joking.
He rolls her body up in a leopard print
fucking carpet.
That'd be a great like post-credit scene.
I've been thinking about this for a long time.
Turn into Milton.
Back home, we see that Roy is living with the cashier he had eyes for throughout the film, and she's pregnant with his baby, which we know because he awkwardly sticks his ear up to her stomach and winks. The end.
Yay, happy ending.
Yeah, sorta.
So
I mean, he's gone legit. And
yeah, that's what he wanted, really. He doesn't have all the money, but he doesn't care about it anymore. Like he says, he gave Angela the money because at that point he realized he didn't need it. His life was over, basically. He was going to prison, and he just wanted her to have it all.
Yeah.
And I think that was real. Like that feeling was real. So when he realized he didn't have any of the money anymore, but he was still free,
Now he's free to actually have the life that he wanted at that point in his life.
And his conscience is clean because all the money's gone. He's not living off of that dirty money anymore. So
yeah, and he doesn't have his tics anymore.
Yep,
he's able to work a real job and be out and about, and like that little wink was like I think like him having his little like a little callback to his Tourette's, fake Tourette's or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a cute ending and a good way to end it.
I always kind of roll my eyes when it's like a 1 year later because it's like, okay, this feels like you just tacked on something, which apparently they did.
Which they did, yeah.
But I think it still fit with what they were.
It did.
Setting
the
up.
ending of the book was it. I haven't read it obviously, but I get the impression that it ended right after he got conned, and that was how we're left. Wondering what happened next. It's
a happy ending that isn't incongruous with the rest of the story. It actually, treats the character realistically and shows that he had a full character arc, as opposed to something like Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans, where the happy ending literally is unearned, comes out of nowhere, and just makes you feel like, what the fuck? That doesn't. It's terrible.
Yeah, it was like super campy. Yeah, everything wrapped up with a nice bow within 10 seconds of each other.
It'd be great if Frank popped in from the side. Here's your money back.
Here's your money back. And then his ex-wife pops in.
Fans it all out in front of the furniture people. Yeah, the carpet store.
A meticulous guy like Roy really missed his calling by turning to crime and not doing something more productive like building websites or at least selling services online. He could offer like house cleaning services or something. I know I'd love him to clean my house, that's for sure. Did you see how spotless that place was? Thankfully, Bluehost has everything Roy would need to set up his website. First, we find him a domain. How about Pygmy Cleaning Service? Oh, nice. Looks like it's available. The good news is the domain is free for a full year once he purchases web hosting for as low as $2.49 a month. And if he doesn't think he can set up his website exactly the way he wants, he can call in the experts at Bluehost to help. Just look at how great that looks. Now he just needs a tagline. How about Unpygmy with Pygmy Cleaning Service? Well, it'll have to do till he thinks of something better. You too can build the website of your dreams by heading over to bluehost.com. Getting started is easy. Just click the link above or in the description. Not only are you getting an incredibly good deal on web hosting, a free domain for a year, and powerful tools to build your website, you're also helping to support our channel.
We have a Coppola Questions before we move on.
Coppola Questions. We sort of answered this one, but do you think Roy ever actually had anything wrong with him throughout?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard because I'm not speaking from a point of expertness, and I don't want to offend anybody because I'm ignorant of this. But I was like, a lot of times OCD can be caused by external factors in your life or something. Like I know. It may not be maybe an actual chemical imbalance, but like it could be an actual neurosis where it's caused by stuff. So he could have had OCD tendencies because of his guilty conscience, and then working through them cleared it up. So You know?
Yeah, I kind of had that feeling too of like it pops up when he's feeling bad about himself or when he's done something bad. But when he's around Angela and stuff, it just goes away completely. And when he's happy, he doesn't have any of the symptoms whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I think it's self-imposed kind of punishment of his conscience.
Yeah, which I think is a real thing. Like that's a very real mental issue people can have.
When you stress people out, certain tendencies will come out, and then they'll subside as they become more relaxed. And I think you're right. I think OCD is one of those things that does come on as a stressor, but then it also can be a chemical imbalance as well. It's mental health is not black and white.
Yeah, I know in high school, my wife got sent to a psychiatrist because her parents said that she had OCD or thought she did because she was like very obsessive about washing her hands about stuff. And the psychiatrist sort of diagnosed her with mild OCD, but it went away eventually, just learning it was more about just her parents were too controlling and she had issues that she had to work through. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like she needed drugs or anything, but he prescribed her some medication for it, but it was more like, I don't know, Paxil or whatever shit they give. Just go to
menopause supplements.
Sure. So I know it's possible to get diagnosed with some form of OCD, but have it just be cleared up through therapy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seems like most people who have these, mental disorders of some kind are in therapy to try and work through them, and sometimes they can control them, and sometimes they can't. I think it just. Yeah, like you said, it's
like
not black and white.
Tourette's you can't control, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So
his Tourette's just goes away completely.
Yeah,
when he's not thinking about
it. Yeah.
I think maybe his obsessive compulsive was something real, but I don't think the Tourette's was ever real. But he does lash out like when he tells the guy if he's ever been beaten until he pissed blood, and he has those freakouts when he says wackos at the beginning, and but I don't know.
If anything, he might be more like a hypochondriac, where he just imagines he has all these mental illnesses, and like that's a real condition people can have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then, like those freakouts, like once again, you introduce stress into somebody's life, and then they have this idea in their head that they suffer from a syndrome or some kind of disease, and they'll amp it. I mean, it's a placebo effect both ways, right?
Yeah,
people can create these disorders in their head because they're stressed out,
and it's kind of like
behaving like it.
Yeah, it seems like he's emulating things that he's seen people with these syndromes have, like where he opens and closes the door 3 times, and he says he says 1, 2, 3 in like 5 different languages or whatever, and the thing. We sort of answered this one too, but do you think he was on fake medication at the very beginning?
Oh yeah,
he's just taking Benadryl this whole time. I wonder how that came about. Like, what was that fake psychiatrist?
I think it is like he just went and found an off the books psychiatrist who just scams people. So he was getting conned even back then and didn't realize it.
Yeah.
So maybe it is just a setup for that.
This one is like a, what if everything would have fallen apart if Roy would have contacted Heather at any point in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what if it would have happened right in the middle at some point? Everything had to work out perfectly for Frank to pull this off.
I feel like if that had happened, Frank would have just cut ties and left. Like, he just called the con off and took off. Like, he'd probably had that as a contingency.
I also think Frank knew he would never reach out to her because
maybe
he's pieced together like all these tics and all these things are brought on by Roy himself and stress and guilt. So like he's not going to want to talk to her because he's too afraid. And if he did reach out to her, then it would have been early on. Yeah. And then at that point, he knew the con wouldn't work.
Yeah, and Dr. Klein even tells her, like, she doesn't want to talk to you, so don't call her.
Yeah, feeds into that, too, by saying, well, mom's always talking bad about you. Telling me you're a criminal, you went to jail, and all this stuff. You're a bad guy. Yeah. So,
would you see him sort of react to that of, like, oh, that sucks. I would have liked to have talked to her, What do you think the secretary was at Dr. Klein's office? Because that was another person who would have had to have been in on it.
Yeah. Like I said,
Or do you think Dr. Klein was a
he was a
real-
legit psychiatrist. He was in a medical office building with other medical stuff. I think he just, maybe he made enough on this deal working with Frank that he could just uproot and move somewhere else. And that's what he did. Because he didn't really do anything illegal. So, maybe he just feared reprisal from Roy, but I still think he was a legit psychiatrist.
That was the first place that Roy went to, was Dr. Klein's.
Yeah.
This is kind of a post-credits. How long do you think Roy goes before he pulls another con when he realizes that babies are expensive and life is expensive? Working at a carpet store kind of sucks.
I don't think he goes back.
You think he's done?
I don't think he does.
He does, you can tell, he has that genuine, thrill every time he does it. And I feel like, maybe this new life supplements that, but it seems like people always end up going back. It's like HI and Raising Arizona, where he gets with Ed and everything is great, but then when things start to go down, he gets itchy and he wants to go back to robbing convenience stores again.
I think the difference there is that he shows in that movie that he might not be set out to domestic life, and in this movie I feel like he replaces the rush of conning people with the rush of being a dad, and I think they're showing that, but he has Angela go return the money that she scammed out of that chick. That's true. If it had really been about the con, he would have been like, all right, well, let's go buy a bunch of ice cream with that $300 or whatever. And instead it was like, no, I'm a good father. I'm going to make you take it back, back to her and teach you the lesson. I taught you how to do the con, but
he's developed a conscience at this point.
Yeah.
Plus he goes into sales. So essentially he's still doing the same
I thought
thing.
of that too.
That's true.
You can still scam people legally, when you're doing commission-based sales. So
you think he'd be amazing at it too. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's why he went specifically into carpet sales or whatever. Cause it's the temptation's probably there, but it's not like car sales where you can really reel somebody in with a ton of money. So maybe he's just,
or corporate sales.
Yeah. Or something like that. So maybe he tricks him out of an extra couple $100 or something here and there, but it's all on the books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably only does it for schlubs that he believes deserves it.
He would have took that doofus for a ride if she wasn't there.
How long had Frank been planning to do this? At what point do you think he decided to set this con in motion versus how long he had? Because obviously he knew Dr. Klein, he had Angela picked to at least start this off. He'd mentioned the thing with Chuck before any of this even happened. So was he planning on just getting in with and I'm assuming he just thinks on his feet, so he's constantly changing up the things. So maybe the original plan was actually do the con with Chuck with Roy and split the money, but he realized with Roy going off the rails, not taking his meds and becoming a wreck, that maybe he could finally fleece him for all of his money.
I feel like maybe he was left in the lurch a few too many times by Roy, having his little episodes, and he was just like, I don't want to be pulling these $350 or couple $1,000 jobs for the rest of my life.
It's a lot of work for
and he's doing all the work.
He's doing all
Roy
of it.
basically comes in at the end,
especially when Roy just stays at home and freaks out and has an OCD episode for
carpet.
2 days or whatever it was. So to me, that was what tipped me off that this was all going to be a con, when he said he complains about Roy having all this money that he doesn't have, and that he knows a psychiatrist that Roy should talk to. It was like, he basically that was where he was like, fuck this. I'm done dealing with this guy's fake illnesses or whatever. I'm just going to take all his money and run.
Yeah.
So I felt like he'd been planning it for a while, but I wasn't sure at what point he decided to set this con into motion.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like he sort of is justified in a way where it's like, this is what you told me to do. This is how you taught me to do cons. It's like, if I ever ran into a situation where I could pull, a huge con like this, I should take it. So I'm just doing what you told me.
It's time for the trackers.
Jump into the curse tracker. Probably pretty light, PG-13, right?
It had a decent amount. I didn't realize it was PG-13. I thought it was an R-rated one. So until you mentioned it was PG-13, because it has one fuck in it, but you're allowed one PG-13 movie. So we'll get that out of the way. He had one fuck. I think it was at the end when everything was falling apart, but I don't quite remember.
So it was Cage who said the fuck.
Yeah. And I think it was when he was freaking out at maybe the pharmacy or something like that, or when everything was falling apart for him. I don't quite remember where it was. But anyway, so one fuck, one hell.
And again, these are only Nicolas Cage. We don't track everybody else.
Yeah.
We only track our star.
Yeah. One hell in a swear sense, not the noun, proper noun. One goddamn. 6 uses of shit, which I think is most PG-13 movies. That's the one that gets used a lot, the most.
Yeah.
Just because it's, you can use it in a lot of situations and it's not too bad of a word. But anyway, one asshole, 2 bullshit, which I count separately as shit. Actually, one of them was one of the uses of bitch was bitchin'. I haven't counted that yet. So 2 uses of bitch. Sorry, this is all over the place. One of the uses was bitchin' when he comes out of the has this freak out when they first go to the boomer's house, and then he freaks out about the door being open. He's like,
yeah, that's right.
The door was open and everything was bitchin'.
It was bitchin'. Yeah. his Tourette's.
Yeah.
Pseudo Tourette's.
3 uses of God as a curse, and then we already said one fuck, and then also 5 uses of pygmies.
Put pygmies in there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
new
count
category.
I just wanted to say pygmies because that's like his swear word that of choice that he uses.
I didn't realize there was 6. That's a lot.
Yeah, so there's
that's a lot more than I thought.
17 total curses in this, which actually is pretty high for a PG-13 movie. I think it's more than Trapped in Paradise. It's more than, obviously, I don't know what other PG-13, I can't remember which PG-13 ones we have. It's more than Wicker Man, which is R-rated.
Yeah. No, that was PG-13. Remember?
Oh, you're right. There was an unrated version, which I think was for the violence. But,
yeah, not the bees is in the unrated version.
Yeah. So 17 curses. That brings our grand total to 429 across 22 movies.
Yeah, because we didn't count Dark because it's not a movie in more ways than one. Runtime, this was 116 minutes, which is hefty. Puts us, I think it's like eight longest. We've had a lot of long movies this season so far.
Yes, we have.
It's right below Joe, which was 117 minutes. So just under 2 hours. Nudity, finally confirmed. Cage ass. There's no debating it. It's not a body double. It's 100%. That's definitely Nic Cage's ass.
Send in the stunt
Very
ass.
exciting. Send in the stunt ass. That actually happened in. I remember seeing that movie where Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher are like hooking up, friends with benefits type of thing. She was like, "Yeah, it was a stunt ass. It wasn't my ass." Same thing in Game of Thrones with Cersei when she's doing the walk of shame. That wasn't her when they show her from behind, which is weird because they show her breasts and stuff.
It was still a body double.
Was it really?
Yeah, the whole thing was a body double.
Wow.
Yeah.
She said, I mean, she's done nudity before, but she said it was basically because she couldn't do that scene for that amount of time to be naked in front of that many people all at once and still try to give a performance, I think.
Yeah.
So they just got some
guess I
model
can
or
see
someone
that.
to do it.
You're like
Luke Skywalker.
You're like one of the most famous people at the time. I don't blame you for not wanting to stand in a crowd of a bunch of
be
random
naked in front
people.
of like 800 people for a day or two of shooting.
Yeah.
You've earned your time and right to not have to be put in that situation.
I'll just say that's a shame. 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 So total, we have 22 breasts. As we've said many times, most of those were in Dog Eat Dog in that one laptop shot. 2 female asses, 6 male asses, or 3 times as many man asses so far. 1 vagina, 1 penis. Still don't know if I could count that vagina because it was digital. It was Dog Eat Dog. Again, the penis, though, we can definitely count. That was 100% in Mandy. Full on floppy dong. State and country tracker, California again. I think the entire thing was in Los Angeles. So that's now 6 times in California, which is our second highest state behind New York, which we've gone to 7 times. We've done 22 films. 7 of them went to New York at some point.
Dang.
Budget versus gross, $62 million, made $65.6. So that brings our grand total up to $636.5 million budget with $1.383 billion gross. So we're still double, at least, definitely in the green. Overall, this movie did not, it, technically made back its budget, but like we said, you have to make at least double.
2.5. Yeah. It's at this point, it's 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Top grossing films now. This is the 6th highest, if you can believe that, out of the 22 that we've done, behind National Treasure, Face Off, Gone in 60 Seconds, Ghost Rider, and Moonstruck, the surprise hit of all those. This one was just above Wicker Man, which made $38.8 on a $40 million budget. So, yeah.
I'm surprised at that. I thought Wicker Man would have been higher, which is funny because it's the first one that we've done or that we covered, so long ago. But now it's like I think about it, like there was a lot of buzz around it, no pun intended, about that movie. But
yeah, but
it did get torn
reamed
apart.
by the critics.
Apart. So
I'm
really
assuming most of that 38
people.
million was opening weekend, and then word of mouth dropped it off a cliff.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised that like the top 5 films. I mean, those are all huge blockbuster films, especially like Face Off. I'm excited to do like The Rock, Con Air, because I feel like those should be up there. Because it feels like they were like right in that time.
They were like 300 million makers.
Yeah, like right in that time, like just really like action heavy. That's what everybody wanted to see, and he bled some of those films that just knocked it out. Well, box office wise, knocked it out of the park.
This was back in the day, it was like Michael Bay was just killing it with these like $300 million makers, on like $50 to $60 million budgets. And that was when he really rose to power with Armageddon and The Rock and all those movies. It was before the $1 billion movies, movies weren't historically making $1 billion back then. I think Transformers made like 700 or something like that. But
it made a ton of money. And then I'm sure once you count home release, like home video, it had to make even more. Because that was like right at the time that HD and Blu-ray were, coming out, and the studios were pimping the hell out of that film.
I feel like those movies, especially Michael Bay movies, were the impetus for that scene in Idiocracy, where like the biggest blockbuster that year was called Ass, and that's all it was for 2 hours.
Go away, I'm baiting.
Ratings, this was a PG-13. That's 6 PG-13 movies now, and I'm like kind of struggling on what was PG-13. Moonstruck, right? Was PG-13?
It was PG.
Was it PG? Okay. Yeah. Ghost Rider must have been PG-13.
Yeah.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there are a fair amount.
Face Off.
Wicker Man.
I think Face Off was R.
Face Off's R.
Is it R?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there was.
Trapped in Paradise
pretty heavy.
Was that PG or PG-13?
Yeah, it was PG-13. Yeah. So that's 6 total. That's our second highest behind R, which we have 9, and then unrated with 5, PG-2. And that leads us to the kill tracker.
This is an easy one for me. 0 kills again. And 0 deaths.
Like he should have killed Angela at the very end and rolled her up in that carpet.
I thought he was gonna like hook up with not hook up, but like meet up with her and then like go get revenge on Frank because maybe she still had contact with where Frank was.
Yeah, then we could make a Matchstick Men sequel.
Yeah.
If it would have made any money, then maybe that would have been a sequel.
Angela's like, wait, how did you find Frank? I mean, he's been gone for like 20 years. He's got a rare blood disease, and it finally came out. It's in his blood.
Could have been like Ocean's 11, where In the second one, they kind of get what their comeuppance, and after doing the con, like. And then the third one is kind of like making things right again and evening things
that's
out.
actually not a bad idea. It would be pretty cool, like 20 years later, for them to do a follow up to this.
Yeah,
and it's and like complete surprise. Like you just focus on Sam Rockwell's character, and like okay, he's gonna get con, but then the con turns out to be Nicolas Cage, and he's got Pedro Pascal there as Hobby.
Sequel nobody asked for.
Yeah, but nobody wants.
We're
whatsoever.
like, wait, there's a first Matchstick Men?
Ridley Scott come on.
directed? What the fuck?
Where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
All right, ratings. Vince, where does Matchstick Men? 2003, I think is when it came out. Mm-hmm. Where does it rate on your Cageometer? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uno, dos, tres. Movie-wise, you know what? I'll give it a 7. I really did find myself enjoying this movie quite a bit, even though right from the beginning I was able to see how the story was gonna go, and that he was getting conned by Frank the whole time, and like we talked about, they telegraph it a little too hard. I wish it would have been a little more subtle and had you questioning it a little bit more. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good story about redemption, in my opinion. I thought throughout the film, you even though he's a bad guy who's ruined a lot of people's lives and taking money from them, like you start to see he's trying to redeem himself, and then when he's literally left with pretty much nothing, he comes full circle. Right now he's able to put everything behind him. In his mind, he's paid off his sins, because all that dirty money, like Nigel said, all that dirty money that he had acquired over the years is gone, and so he can start fresh, and he can start living a life that he's known he needs to live, which is where all his OCD and Tourette's comes from. And I'm glad that they did add on that little bit at the end where he confronts her. They make peace with it, and then it shows that he's gone on, and he's now actually able to start moving forward with his life. He asked out that cashier chick, and they got married, and they're having a kid, and he's not stuck living this life of crime and like essentially frozen in time. He's just repeating these cons. He's never moved on. He's never gotten into a relationship. I really appreciated them tying it up that way. I think they did a good job, and it made sense. And it was, it was a fun movie. It was fun, had some good funny moments in it, and I definitely enjoyed it more than some of the other films we've had to watch. As far as Cage's performance, I want to give him a 7 too, because I felt like he nailed like the Tourette's and some of the OCD stuff that he did, and there were times where I'm like watching him, and I'm like, fuck, like that's how I imagine somebody with those disorders behaves. And that character's traits led to some of those cagey moments feeling a little more authentic, which I always appreciate, and that always gets a bonus for me because I love when he goes off the fucking hinges.
Yeah.
And then I thought the chemistry between him and Angela was really, really good too. Like he's just like, you could feel him wanting to be better for her, and you see his tendencies start to fall off and his disorders start to fall off as he's spending more time with her. And I thought he did a good job at bringing that up front. Like he wants to be better for this girl, and you start to see him like fall in love with her as his daughter. And sometimes he's not the best at conveying those types of emotions in films, where you don't really get that connection with the other actor or actress that he's with. So I really appreciated that from him. So movie 7, Cage 7, definitely one of the more enjoyable films we've watched throughout the show.
Yeah, for sure. Nigel, where does this rate on your Cageometer?
Yeah, this is a pretty solid movie. I liked it all around. I don't have a lot of major complaints with it. I give it a 7 out of 10 as well. Not to hammer on the same point, but my major problem with it is that it is a little too predictable right from the outset that the con is happening to him. Part of the joy in it, though, was figuring out like how the con was going to come undone or pay off, or whatever, whether he was going to flip the switch and maybe he had been trying to out-con Frank the whole time too. And, but really the story is about him getting over the con life and, realizing and finally getting what he actually wanted in life, which was a family or a daughter or somebody to have a genuine human connection to. And he gets his comeuppance, he loses that, he loses his money, he loses everything from it. But, as cheesy as it might sound, the happy ending I liked a lot because it was, like I said before, it's happy, but it pays off in the rest of the story that you watch. It falls in line with what it could have gone two ways. He could have gone back to the con life and still been miserable, 1 year later. But it shows that, even though he lost everything, he's doing okay because he's got what he really wanted out of it, which is to get out of the con life and, have a wife and have kids and stuff. So,
find someone to love. And what was missing from his life was love in general.
Yeah.
I think love and having a clean conscience, because he sort of tortures himself over how bad of a guy he was. And maybe he just fell into that trap of like, I'm a bad guy, so I might as well just be a bad guy and just con people, if he was truly really bad, he could have turned to even worse crime, than financial white collar stuff. But,
or if he would have been the one who shot Chuck, or
and so if he beat his wife or ex-wife or whatever, it may have just been a one-time thing where he gave her a black eye and then they called it quits, and that's where he realized like he's a shitty person and needs to not be in relationships because he doesn't want to fall into that. You're left with conjecture on what that says about his character. But I like that aspect of it. All the actors are great. All the performances are great and believable, especially in a movie about a big con. It has to be believable. And even having the suspicion that they were conning him throughout the whole movie, it pays off, it's played in a way where it is totally believable. They could be this could be totally legit, or they could be, scamming him out of this stuff. And I think that, like we mentioned before, I can't remember her name. The actress who plays Angela.
Alison Lohman.
Alison Lohman does a perfect job of like straddling that line of feeling sincere and probably actually being sincere with the way we know from the character in the end, but also still, hitting him up for information, trying to wheedle her way into his life, checking through his stuff, the crocodile tears to manipulate him about stuff. It all kind of comes through in that performance. So
in a way, it's kind of, it's similar to, I forget her name, but the girl in the red dress in Deadfall, but done well. This is what that looks like when it's done well.
Yeah, and I was saying about this earlier, like this is like good Deadfall. Like this movie was like a good version of Deadfall done in a better execution.
So Chris Coppola didn't do quite as good a job as Ridley Scott
and whoever wrote this, script writers for this one. Solid movie. I recommend it. I can understand why it doesn't have a lot of buzz about it and kind of has gone forgotten over the years. It's not like great, it's not one of those all-time classics, but it's worth the watch. So
for sure.
As far as Cage's performance, I actually give him an 8 out of 10 on this because of those portrayal of those various fake mental illnesses that he has. But he does it in a way you think has to be a little bit challenging while he's shooting to try and get across the facial tics and the vocalizations. And again, he does have he does some really good physical acting in a lot of this. So you can sort of see his actual state of mind in how he carries himself and how he's interacting with Angela, when he's happy and also when he's really sad and when things go off the rail and he gets really manic, he has all those movements down. So again, I'll keep harping on it, but I think that's one of his unsung traits as a physical actor. That
100%
doesn't get brought up a lot, but he really shows it in this one. His relationship with Angela feels genuine. You can kind of feel his joy and excitement and struggles of trying to be a new parent, with it. And I think he does it in a way that's very, very charming. You can see why he's also a really good con man in this. Like he's very charming and smart to think on his feet. So
especially in the scenes like when he's interacting with Chuck, like you see how good he is at it,
or when you see him just pull off the pigeon drop con, how he plays a completely different random guy in the laundromat stuff. So I think his performance is again, it's not one of those like great memorable performances, but it was good for what it was. So it showed his skill as an actor in a movie that's pretty good, but not one that most people are going to be talking about decades from now.
Which I think is kind of unfortunate. I think it is.
But again,
it is a solid movie.
It's a testament to how he generally gives his all when he's doing a movie, no matter what. So, and again, nobody knows how a movie's going to be received while they're making it, so you might as well give it your all. And you can tell he put his heart into this character. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel that too. On my Cageometer, I also gave it a 7. It's not a masterpiece. It's not something you're, like. I do understand why it's been kind of largely forgotten. I kind of feel, it's sort of similar to The Weatherman in tone and feel. Yeah. It's like it's a movie that's, I feel, solid. Nigel disagrees, but I feel like it's a very solid movie and well executed for what it is. But yeah, I can't give it like super high marks just because of. I feel like they could have executed the con on us better, but maybe they wanted to let us in on what was happening at the same time so that we wouldn't feel cheated like we were conned. But I feel like that's the whole point of the movie, right? It would have worked
better, I think, if they'd done that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, in the behind the scenes, they said that there was a lot more clues dropped, which I feel like, from the first moment that he starts getting conned, you're like, yeah, he's getting conned. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because there weren't a ton of movies like this at the time. The cat's head just right there. So maybe we've been trained as an audience since then to pick this stuff up, and maybe at the time audiences weren't quite as keen to this kind of bait and switch. And so they wanted to make sure that the audience didn't feel cheated out of, some resolution, or I don't know. But yeah, it's not a perfect movie, but it's a satisfying movie, and it's definitely one that I recommend. I think it's one of the, like Vince said, it's one of the more enjoyable movies that we've done throughout. Just a fun watch, I feel like. Yeah. Though, like if you really stop and think about it, it's pretty heartbreaking.
Yes.
He gets this daughter and he loves her, obviously, and he genuinely cares for her. And then turns out that she's just scamming him the entire time. It's pretty gut wrenching if you really stop and think about it. I kind of wish that they would have done a little bit more with that, like his reaction to it. He's like, he breaks down for a second in front of Heather, but then he's laughing about, oh God, I can't believe I've been getting conned this entire time. Mm-hmm. So I think they could have done a little bit more. I don't know. I hate to compare to Mandy in the moment when his love is being burned to death. Spoilers in front of him. Yeah. But yeah, as far as Cage, I'll give him an 8 as well. Like, I feel like he did such a great job with those visual tics, and like you said, it must have been really challenging to like nail that and nail the performance and nail the lines, and it must have been it must have been a lot of work, like fitting that in and like knowing where to put it and where not to put it, and and the blinks and the uh-huhs and all that kind of stuff, and just the little like visual cues where he's like pointing at Frank to get off the carpet and all that kind of stuff, and like him really throwing himself into that character of a person who is faking having this stuff but thinks that they have it at the same time. Like it's a pretty masterful performance. I mean, like Nigel said, like his physical acting is very underrated, and I feel like it really comes across here, especially like when he really goes off the rails. Like you feel it, especially like when he's in the pharmacy. Like he doesn't even look like the same person at moments.
Yeah,
because
really
he's
deranged.
so manic and over the top and crazed and just really trying to get those pills, his menopause pills.
I'm having a hot flash.
But yeah, sevens across the board. Prefects. Sevens across the board, and then little over I guess it would be a 7.6 for his overall performance.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
Windows are closed. You looking for something, sucker?
But now she just wants me home in time for summer school.
Oh. When does that start?
Monday?
Well, today's Thursday.
Well, that's okay, isn't it?
Here.
Cheers.
I don't know.
I didn't take any money from your stupid dog. So what, you never heard of a bank?
That is wrong what you did, and you're a nosy Parker, and that's no way for a young lady to behave, and shame on you! Listen, I need a new thing of pills, and well, actually, are you at his office now?
I'm sorry, sir. The office is
Oh
closed.
shit!
This is Century.
Sorry, my phone is dying.
Yes, sir. If this is a medical emergency, I recommend you contact your local hospital or
Well,
call
can you
911.
help me? Is there a way you can help me help you help
No,
me
sir.
so that I can get in his office?
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. Next, we'll be watching the 2021 horror western psychedelic, whatever the fuck this thing is, Prisoners of the Ghostland. Directed by Japanese cult icon Sion Sono, I think is how you say it. Sion, S-I-O-N. Sion Sono. It is a batshit genre mashup where Nic Cage plays a notorious criminal sent to rescue a governor's daughter who has disappeared into a dark region called the Ghostland. I feel like he saw Road Warrior or Fury Road, and then he
Escape
saw
from
the
LA.
Total
Escape from New
Recall,
York.
or not Total Recall, The Running Man. I feel like he just like threw together all of these crazy things, and it's like a Western and an anime and a geisha film, and it's just fucking weird, dude. It's a weird movie.
Japanese culture wrapped up into one film.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, when you see those shots of Tokyo and you're just like, God, there's just so much shit going on. It's just, how does anybody concentrate with all this stuff happening? That's the whole movie. The whole movie from start to finish. Mm-hmm. My favorite review of the film, and the one that I think sums it up brilliantly. This is the worst Nic Cage movie that has ever been made. It was amazing and horrible. Absolute garbage from start to finish. It was wonderful. 5 stars, 2 thumbs up. So yeah, it's very worth watching. Nic Cage is terrible in it, I think. I don't feel like he brings anything to the table in this movie. And the movie is awful. It's just awful, but fascinating at the same time. I don't know. It's great to be able to have something like Nic Cage to just kind of latch onto, like a familiar thing to navigate through this insanity. But like, we'll get to it. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Hey, buddy, ever heard of a line?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes as well as listen to our follow-up show, back into the cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
What?
This packet contains supplements, sir.
No. My doctor gave those to me. They're prefects.
They're supplements, sir.
Bullshit, man! Prefects!
Flimflam.
Prefects!
Aisle 4,
Prefects!
sir. Did you call security?